Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome. Before we begin, I just want to say that our show here is no stranger to controversy. And before the show even began, there's already a lot of controversy about tonight's guests, which, yeah, I suppose they're controversial. But I just want to put this on the record again. I've said this several times, and it bears repeating. That many of the people that we have as guests are controversial figures, and these are controversial and strange topics. So certainly some of the people involved in these topics are going to be controversial people. We can't shy away from controversial figures just because some people, that's usually a very small minority of people, don't like that particular guest or have some problems with them, or maybe have some problem with something they may have said or done in the past. So I've said it before, I got to say it again. My hosting or having a guest here is not an approval or endorsement of everything that person has ever said or done. That's unreasonable. And quite frankly, it's kind of ridiculous position to take or, to try to force me into. And sometimes I get hate mail when I have a guest that someone doesn't like. I can't run a show by canceling or not allowing guests because a few people don't have some kind of problem with something a guest may have said or done in the past. I can't be aware of everything as well that a guest has ever said or done. And it's important to realize that usually these complaints come from 1 or 2 people who have some kind of personal issues or grudges against those particular guests. So I suppose in short, I just want to say if you have a problem with either of tonight's guests or any guest here really, then I invite you to take your issues up with them personally and privately. Don't put me in the middle of it. I'm not here to mediate disputes between guests I choose to have and anyone else. As far as tonight's guests, which is Tupacabra and Red Panda Koala, I'm certain there's many things that I disagree with them on, and many things that they may have said or done in the past that I don't agree with. But I'm not here to judge or argue with them, rather here to learn from them and what they have researched and learned. We're here to find common ground and have a conversation, and I get to take all of you along with me for that conversation. And one other issue before we begin, I got several messages that took a great deal of, people are offended. You know what happens when you're offended? Nothing. I'm not purposely trying to offend somebody, but several people were offended by the use of my use of the term cult in tonight's title of the show and thumbnail. And I just want to remind you that if you're not allowed to question the leaders of your belief system, then you're in a cult. If you have to lie to defend the previous lies of the leader of your belief system, then you're in a cult. If you have to ignore a mountain of facts and evidence in order to preserve your belief system or belief in that leader of your movement, then you're in a cult. And if you're being told who you can and cannot talk to by that group that you're in, then you're in a cult. And if your group is actively threatening people's wives, family, or especially children, then you're in a cult. My use of the term is appropriate given my own personal experience. So we're going to begin tonight, and we have a surprise guest as well, but let's bring Tupacabra and Red Panda Koala. And before I forget to say, I just wanted to say that I have enjoyed their spaces that they do, and I get to learn a great deal. I'm always sort of in the background listening. I think you guys are doing a great job, and some of the things that you're finding out, I'm not finding out. I don't get to, you get some of these guests and whistleblowers that were deeply involved in this. You're doing a great job. I just want to let you know that, both of you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know Red appreciates it too. He does, he's a great researcher, and a lot of this stuff happens in spaces or right around there. You know what I mean? It almost feels like it's a disposable message board for these people sometimes, but it's not. Like, everything's recorded, or people were listening, and you catch a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah. And you guys have been catching some incredible stuff recently. Like, I know that Gary, this Ack from the Pfister show, sent Lue Jimenez an email essentially admitting that there was attacks being targeted by, certain people. But then you guys got somebody in your space. I wanted to begin with that, who was basically confirming that, these attacks and doxing and threatening people and looking up people's criminal background to try to discredit them, this stuff is all being directed. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Correct.
I was really shocked to find out that, or to hear from LM that was the case, right? A former associate of Fessler's show, right? You suspect it, and they say it a little bit, right? They mention it on their show, a little bit of how they do their little tactics and stuff. They're almost very cocky about it. They brag about it. There's like a soft brag that they do. But you can only piece together so many things without having an insider or someone to really come forward and be like, yeah, that's actually exactly what was going on. And look here, here, and here, and what you'll find is this, this, and this, and that's exactly what we got. And it was groundbreaking. I'm still shocked at the stuff that he's confirmed. I haven't even got over all of it yet.
Yeah, I was just going to share this, if you don't mind, for the benefit of my audience. I've heard all this stuff, but I always have to remind myself that maybe the audience haven't heard. One of the things that I found shocking is that this guy's basically saying you're not allowed to question Lue at all. You're not, even if he's wrong.
It's crazy. It's cult, like you said.
It's cult-like. Here
No,
we go. Let's listen.
So the first time that I talked to Lue, the first time that I had the opportunity to talk to Lue, I was on a phone call and I was waiting, and I heard the phone ring, and Thomas was like, "Lee, be quiet. Say nothing. Say nothing until Lue gets involved." And he actually told me, don't get counter against Lue with your research. So if you know something, don't say it like you know it. Don't offend him. Just talk about it, and then we'll get around it.
You're literally describing
hold up. And this is what I was told. I was put to task. He was like, don't get into a research battle with him, because it's not going to work out well. Even if you're right, it's not going to work out well. Don't embarrass him with your research. And I was brought on this phone call for a very fucking specific reason. That's the reason why I was on that phone call. And I was told, even if you know something, and even if he says something that is not accurate, do not correct him. Just
This
leave
sounds
it alone
like a cult to me.
and let it be.
Textbook.
When I first got on the phone call, Lue didn't answer the phone.
No, his handler did.
It was Jennifer, right?
That's correct.
She just called into there recently too, and I know for a while there she was organizing his interviews and stuff like that. But
that's right. But even
she's
beyond
a little
that,
more involved.
Right. But even beyond that, I'm letting you guys know, I was told specifically that the research that I've done, don't get cross with him. It's not going to work well. Even if you know what you know, don't argue with him.
Wow.
And if you say something and he doesn't know anything about it, don't push it.
Yeah, so this sounds exactly like a cult. I mean, you can't question
Textbook.
the leader.
Textbook. And also,
cult dynamics.
First time here. Great to be here, Camion. I like your show. You're a pretty funny guy. Sometimes, like everyone, right? I feel like maybe push a little too hard, but I do appreciate the comedy that you do. No one else is a comedian in this thing, right? And I'm glad that we're building.
I do it because it's so stupid, Red, that I have to make this funny. I have to laugh at the ridiculous. Like, I feel like I'm stuck in clown world. It's just so stupid. Everybody's worshiping a fake Pentagon UFO program director that lied about his resume for years, and you're not allowed to question him. We have to make fun of this. It's so stupid.
Oh yeah, and it's all
so
crumbling
dumb
right now too, right? Like even some of the true believers are like even George Knapp is saying like the New York Times article was wrong, and
yeah, I was going to talk to you guys about that, but isn't it like a bit disingenuous that this guy knew in 2017 that whole article was wrong, and he interviews Lou on Coast to Coast and doesn't bring that up, and he does all this stuff because there was money there for him, but now that money's dried up, and so now he's got to find a new wave. I think I heard one of you guys say he's got to find a new wave to surf. So we'll throw Lou under the bus and we'll go on the Stratton wave now, right?
Well, there's just no way they can save that sinking ship, dude. There's no way. But I think it is disingenuous for them to have known this entire time that what he was saying was bullshit, and that they just kept it going for the sake of disclosure, or for disclosure, and also their show, and also their friend's show, and all. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, at some point, the money was definitely a factor here. That's one of the reasons why they didn't want to stifle this. And I think they kept telling themselves that it was, we don't want to slow down disclosure. This is good for disclosure. I mean,
and it's the fear thing too, right?
Yes.
There's carrot and stick. All these people know, right? So, like for example, the way that he was describing there, I hate to say it, but I bet for sure that UFO podcast has a similar MO. And like some of these other podcasts that Lou goes on, right? Like Don't Question. I mean, you saw it, right? I saw you covered it yesterday with Grider, the Artisan Tony thing, right? Like even the super chat, it's like, nope, you're done, cut out.
Yeah. And for those unaware, there's another show host named Artisan Tony, and this is why these guys' spaces are great. I highly recommend go and listen to their spaces on Twitter, because there's so many little really cool things that happen that affect, it's like ripples out of your spaces that are affecting the whole UFO continuum. It's so funny. So Artisan Tony has got an interview with Lue Elizondo scheduled, and he's in his space with these guys, and these guys start busting his balls like, oh, you're going to do the whole softball thing. And Tony, to his credit, he says, I don't want to ask rude or hard questions, but if people super chat them, I'll ask Lue Elizondo those questions, so I don't have to be the bad guy. And what was it like the next day after he says that in his spaces, Lue Elizondo cancels the interview, showing he's terrified of people asking real questions.
And Artisan Tony said that he was going to step away from the topic for a while. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. Okay. It sounds like he got thrashed for that.
No hard questions for Lou. And then you got to think too, right? People say this like hate group stuff doesn't matter or whatnot, but it was used to prop up this lie, and it affected hundreds of people. Many people who just don't even speak about how it affected them. They like you're obviously familiar with it. Manny is, but all like even people who like these shows often get affected by it. And
and for people unaware, just some background. There was literally Rob Heatherly and Pfister's show, where basically like if you say anything bad about Lue Elizondo, we're going to get you. And then they started like doxing people, threatening. All of a sudden, my wife gets threatened by name, my children. Rob Heatherly says, oh, I didn't dox you, but he put my name and my street name out on Twitter. And if you put those two things in a Google box, you get my address. So essentially, they're trying to let me know, like, we can get to your family, or some nut job might get to your family if you keep talking like you're talking, Steven. And Manny,
it's happening to LM right now too. Real quick, LM.
They turned on him
after his wife and his wife's job, and she has nothing to do with the UFO community. They're all making
same here. My wife doesn't even know what the hell's going on. She's like, why is this? What the hell is going on? You know? And they of course, with all these sock accounts, they come in the live chat and they put my address in the live chat, and we're like, oh, I'm right outside your house at this address. Your wife looks good tonight. I'm looking at the big front windows, and big geniuses, they Google Street Mapped my address or something. And I have big bow windows in the front of my house. So, but this intimidation, this threatening and harassing people who disagree with you, it proves that this is like a cult, and if Lue Elizondo was such a true and real hero, they wouldn't need these tactics to silence people and threaten them into, into silence. It's just ridiculous. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
unbelievable to me that this goes on. And people give Lue Elizondo a pass. And I don't believe that he's not aware of this. People are saying there's recordings and he was directing them to do this stuff. Allegedly. I don't know if that's true. We haven't heard the recordings, but I think they might come out, and that's why he can't take questions. Because if he denies it and then the tapes come out, it's going to be a huge gotcha moment, you know?
He's running from this question a lot, and he's been notified. Yeah, Rob Heatherly, actually, who you mentioned, we got him in a space where he said Lue reached out to him specifically because he had heard KMF had turned on him. So Lue Elizondo took time out of his day to call Rob Heatherly specifically to make sure that KMF was still loyal to him. And
That's
we've
cold. That's cold.
That's crazy, right? And we all know who this guy's behavior is. It's some of the worst I've ever seen. And I came to it a different end because, like, a lot of my stuff's historical, right? So I kind of wasn't really even paying that much attention to the here and now because I didn't expect this behavior to be so absurdly bad. But then, you know, people either find the hate group by questioning Lue, or then when I saw the hate group, I was like, oh, this is weird, and like it's all being structured around to prop up this guy, and we're seeing it all backfire today, right? It's like all these lies are just crumbling now, and it's like I honestly think the whole movement is going to crumble.
It's good to see, and I agree with you. Here's how I always gauge if something's coming crashing down. I suddenly start getting emails and messages from people saying, I'm sorry that I said this about you. You were right about this, or whatever.
Oh, we've been getting those too, right?
I'm getting a lot of those emails.
Oh my God.
Now, like, oh my God, you were right. I'm so sorry for saying what I said.
Yeah.
Somebody called me One-Eyed Willie a bunch of times, and he sent me an apology. Like, and that's the funny thing isn't it funny that they can never attack the facts, the evidence, or the research? They just come after you for like something stupid you can't control, like your appearance or, you know, whatever. Like, go ahead, call me grandma's boy. Show me my research was wrong. Show me where I'm wrong, dummy. You know, they can't do it. They can't do it.
It's not what it's about at all. You know, their job, it seems, was to cover up. You know, this is an interesting thing, right? Because we talked about George Knapp admitting that there was definitely knowledge that the article had a bunch of inaccuracies. Exactly, and they never were corrected. That's at the very least what George Knapp knows. Now imagine what everybody else knew as well, and they're all sitting around, right, hoping that no one finds out, or hoping that they don't have to admit it. Otherwise, they would have admitted it, right? If they thought that was the right thing to do, they would have done it, but they didn't. And every time a critic, right, starts to bring this up, they were attacked by this group very viciously, and it was always people who were criticizing Lue, always people who were questioning that narrative, and it seems rather weird that I was always wondering, right? Why were these guys protecting these trolls? Why were they always surrounding themselves with it? What's going on there? What's the motive? But if they knew the whole time that article could be found out to be fake and people could easily figure that out, then silencing the critics makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they messed up by going after Greenwald, I think, right? Because, you know, everyone's got a little checkered past or whatnot, but when you go after someone like Greenwald, who's like so Boy Scout and so by the book, you know, and they...
Well, not only that, like, and I just wanted to mention this. In my intro tonight, I left this out. One of the things that I love talking to like creative, powerful, artistic people. And you two are, I would consider, very powerful, creative, and artistic people. So, but when it comes to Green Street, like, that dude's a monster when it comes to investigating things and video editing. Like, this is not the guy to go after, you dummies, because you're just going to make them mad, like the Hulk, you know, you want me when I'm angry. It's so stupid. And I wanted to mention before I forget, because I had some notes here. Elizondo's claims on himself in ATIP. First, he was the former ATIP director. Now it's being amended to he is a former Pentagon official. First, it was an official government UFO program. Now it's being amended to an unofficial portfolio. First, it was a funded program with $22 million, and now it's being amended to it was an unfunded, unofficial, project. And all of this got amended after skeptical researchers proved that all those first claims were false. And I think, doesn't that matter that they keep changing the story and nobody's allowed to comment on that?
Even in Lue's own book, right? His book came out,
he can't even get it straight in his book. Yes.
And then 5 days later on Coast to Coast, he says something completely different than his book that just came out 5 days before. And then people get mad at us. And I'm saying, which Lue are we supposed to believe? he said
which
so many
version?
different things.
He keeps retconning it as it goes on. Oh, and I forgot I'm a terrible show host. I left UFO Shane down there. I apologize.
Yeah.
What up, Shane?
Now we've got Shane too. Shane, your thoughts on this?
Hey, what's up?
Is the Elizondo cult crumbling right now? What are your thoughts on this?
You know, yeah, man. I mean, I would hope so. You know, as a former cult member myself, right? As someone who used to be the same guy, like, how dare you? How dare you talk ill of this man who risked everything? He still gets his pension. He's made hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's had TV shows, documentaries. He said he was going to build an alien spaceship, and then we got a crap movie. You know, he left before the crap movie. You know, I would hope so. But I love, Stephen, one of my favorite things to do at my 12-hour day at work is to go look at whatever you posted. And it's not because of whatever, I hate to say this, not because of like, because I just know you're the same as me. We're like, hey, this is all bullshit. But I love reading the comments. And they're just like, how dare you? He gave up everything to give us the truth. And you're like, what are you talking about? He's been here for 7 years.
He's getting a movie deal now. He got a book deal, a TV show deal. And in 7 years, he showed zero evidence that anything he said is true. But there's a mountain of evidence that a lot of things he said were lies. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say more than a mountain. It's like a whole different universe at this point. Like you just look into it, it's just like full of his lies. I mean,
Lue Elizondo lies cinematic universe.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what to do anymore because I used to eat this stuff up, and then I thought to myself, like, you know, I'm an experiencer. I've had an experience, and I want to know what that is. But it's people like this guy, like Lue Elizondo, right? He makes veterans look bad. You know, like honestly, my dad, you know, was a Bullerman right after World War II. My uncle fought in World War II, and these were great men. But they never said, like, you know, a general came flying around the corner in like a Humvee and it had a grenade launcher on it.
Humvee, yes.
Yeah, this is like tung, 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 tung. And he killed 40,000 terrorists. And he launched 8 grenades, 40,000 men died. You know, he didn't
Real
actually
hero.
say that, but yeah, it's just like, dude, how are you stolen valor when you have valor? I just, you know, and I get that people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I just,
you know, I wanted to talk about too, like the other thing that I think is coming crashing down is I have started to think I was not a huge wrestling fan growing up, not too much. As soon as I learned that it was fake, I was like, oh shit, I'm not watching this anymore. But my brother-in-law happens to be a professional wrestler, and he was talking to me about people's gimmicks, you know, in wrestling. Like you got everybody's got a gimmick. There's Ultimate Warrior, right, and there's Andre the Giant or the Big Show or whatever. Yeah. So it looks to me like if you compare the wrestling gimmick to the world of UFOs, everybody's got their gimmick, right? And Lue Elizondo's was, I was an insider, and there I learned all these secrets, but I can't really talk about it all, but I'll dance around and try to bring disclosure. And he sort of, his gimmick was sort of that he had all this insider government knowledge since 2017. And then his book comes out, and the only thing we get is like how Putoff told me the aliens are real. Yeah. Like it's so stupid. So even his gimmick is coming crashing.
The angel. I saw you were getting heat for the angel thumbnail, but it's like he literally wrote his own book.
Somebody said this thumbnail is way over the top, Stephen, and I'm like, wait,
really?
I put him as I made him an angel in the thumbnail. That's over the top, but saying that you made a terrorist bed shake.
Well, even where you messed up was
you made the terrorists see 5 angels with your superpowers.
You only used one angel, Stephen. There were 5 in the story. There were 5 angels, Stephen.
I don't even think David Wilcox pulled anything like that, right?
Should have put 4 more angels on the thumbnail. Yeah, I'm over the top. But saying that you made a terrorist bed shake and made them see 5 angels with your superpowers.
Imagine you're laying in bed and you see like the coming of the Lord, and it's just Lue Elizondo like eating a turkey club in the Pentagon.
We all better be careful because he might make all our beds shake tonight.
Oh, dude, I hope so. It's a challenge to Lue Elizondo, please.
And
you know, powers.
I have done this several times. I offered David Wilcock $10,000. I offered Richard Dolan's wife $10,000, and I'll offer Lue Elizondo. I'll offer you $10,000. Prove your superpowers are real. They can't and they won't. It's all so stupid.
Do
and
you still have the money in like a plexiglass case?
No, I put
that
it
was
in
my favorite thing you've ever done. Was when you
know how
pulled
much-
out 10 grand in a
You know how
plexiglass
much
case.
trouble? You know how much trouble I got in with my wife? She was like, "What the fuck are you doing with this kind of money?
This
just laying
fucking
around
guy
the house?"
for real pulled out a plexiglass case with 10
I have a
grand
plexi-
one night.
yeah.
It was like,
Legend.
dude,
Yeah.
dude, he buried dildos.
I buried a box of dildos for David Wilcock, and I said if he could find the box of dildos with his superpowers, or his angels helping him, or the aliens helping him, or Corey Good with his secret space brothers helping him, then I would give him 10 grand. And
If David would have just walked his dog one time,
yep,
he would have found it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's so close to his house, it's like ridiculous. And
all he had to do was take Gurley for one walk. He couldn't even do that.
But it's so like, this is what my point is like, this guy's been dancing around pretending he had all these secrets for 10, almost 10 years now, right? Like 8 years. And then we find out he's got nothing but the same shit everybody else has. Like Jacques Vallée says, and Hal Puthoff told me. Hal Puthoff got fooled into believing a man had superpowers by children's magic tricks. And he believed that he had superpowers himself that he got from Scientology. He's not the most credible person, and he hasn't proved it to he's also the guy behind Grush, telling Grush this stuff. So we have Grush with zero evidence, but lots of stories. Everybody's making tons of money, and then that fades out, and now they're putting Lue back up in the spotlight, who has equally no evidence. It's just bizarre.
And his reputation sure has taken a hit. I wonder if they're taking that into account of their next strategy for next term. You know what I mean? Like, this is really weird. Stratton coming out against him is huge.
Well, you know what I foresee, Tupacabra, and you're a big student of history. In fact, you're doing that UFO timeline that I think I'm going to love, and it's going to be really a great research tool.
Oh, thanks, man.
Here's what I see. I see a return coming of like the Billy Meyer manufactured fake shit, because they have burnt out everybody on these evidence-free stories. They can't put up another guy that has nothing. They're going to have to start faking some shit or something in order to keep it going.
I agree. Things are getting really thin over there. It's getting really bad. I think we're going to see a surge of like ufology parody entertainment, you know what I mean, where it's kind of like Best in Show and stuff, where we can start making fun of ourselves like that's going to happen, especially if Elizondo collapses, you know what I mean. If that story collapses in front of everybody, it's going to be really bad.
I think he's
the best move.
I think he's going to collapse. And it's funny that you mentioned that people are going to start making comedies out of this, because there's a new YouTube channel. This Anthony from Unidentified S4 kind of quit his show. He just got disgusted, and he basically he's just making disclosure cartoons now. And I want to have a good time tonight, so if you guys would indulge me, I'm going to play this, because this shit is so funny. This is the Vero Beach CE5 Stephen Greer incident, and so. You mentioned that this is going to happen. It's already happening. This is brand new. It just came out. This is some.
Welcome, everyone, to Vero Beach Under the Stars. My name is Dr. Stephen Greer. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Before we proceed, there are just a few things we need to go over. Number one, no feeding the aliens under any circumstances.
Why? That's
Number two, when I say cameras down, this means cameras down. Only my team may film. At the end of tonight's event, I will be selling copies of your amazing encounters on DVD for the low price.
This is hilarious, dude.
If you are all good boys and girls, I might just autograph.
Only my team can film, by the way. You paid $5,000, but only my can film.
Or an alien,
we'll
do not scream like a child. We're all adults, so let's act accordingly. Now, the tuition is $3,500 per person.
Holy shit.
This will allow you to sit on this public beach with me, and I will summon my alien loved ones using the ancient CE5 method to shine down upon you and possibly greet you all. Are we ready? Let's form a line, and everyone can pay me in cash.
This is so exciting, Dr. Greer.
Keep it coming, folks.
Everyone can
Hey, Doc,
pay me in cash.
take me next. I have my cash ready.
My nerves are shot.
Oh, stop. This is so exciting.
Stop being a baby.
This is so beautiful. I can do this every night.
I couldn't agree more.
Just look at that view. It's beautiful,
Jack,
you
do
guys.
you copy? Jack, it's Greer over.
I copy loud and clear, Doc.
Maintain 10,000 feet and drop one test flare now. Over.
Copy that, Doc. Take a look up. How does that look?
That's
Over.
perfect. Keep him coming in a straight line. Greer out.
Okay, Doc. On it, 10-4.
Do you unironically believe this man? Can you believe it, Steven?
I did, but there's no
Bunch more
reason.
now. Over.
Those look perfect. They won't suspect a thing.
Look, it's aliens over the ocean.
I cannot believe this.
Holy shit, it is.
They're so beautiful.
Do you think they will land?
I count at least 11.
It's incredible, guys.
I'm with him. This is crazy. What's next?
Oh, man up already. You two can't be serious. Afraid of lights in the sky.
Leave them alone, you dick.
Give them a break. It's aliens over there.
You
It's
did.
crazy. Some people gonna love and some be scared. Hide behind Giovanni.
Sweet mother of God. One flare flew back in. I'm on fire.
I'm in trouble. This is insane.
I'm telling you where I'm going. I'm gonna crash.
915, let me say last known position.
I have no idea. I'm gonna crash.
915, let me say altitude.
I'm rolling. Oh my God. Help!
Oh my God.
It's Get Greer.
Realize, everybody, get off the That fucking plane's coming down.
He lied.
Go get him.
Get Greer.
Jack, come in.
Oh my God.
The plane crashed.
Come in. I got to get out of here. These people are onto my grift. Don't hurt me. Please take the money. Oh, Bijou, help me.
Unreal. You bastard.
I can't believe Greer screwed us.
Grab the cash.
Oh, wow, that was really good.
So
That was
You know what
wild.
program that was.
I'm not the only one creating whole new forms of entertainment out of the UFO thing because it's so stupid, you know?
Dude, Steven, a friend of mine got a hold of their publicist for Stephen Greer, right? And they got to make a private phone call on Zoom to Stephen. And he glitched his camera. And this is a true story. He was laying on a beach, half nude, in a toga, like half toga. And he was like talking to them about how much it was going to cost them to put them on his show. He tried to charge me $2,500 for an hour and a half, dude.
Wow.
I used to worship this man, dude. I used
He
to
is the
share
most.
on Acknowledge,
I think
man.
he's the most financially successful UFO grifter based on a lot of things. Including,
There's literally no telling what he's made. There's no
Millions.
like I know my
Millions.
PFP is Haim Wilson, but dude, Stephen Greer is number one, dude. Any one of us, me, Stephen, you, Tupa, Red Panda, all of us could take notes because we all want a beach house in Boca. You know, like he's the guideline. He's the guideline, dude.
Yeah, and I remember there was reports that like Lue Elizondo and his wife were complaining because they saw how much money Stephen Greer was making, and they felt like they weren't making as much. So that may be the cause of some of that rift between them. You know, like here's
Maybe that's why he called him a terrorist.
he did. Yeah, I don't negotiate with terrorists. Yes.
So that has to do with Jeremy McGowan as well. Remember, Jeremy talks about him listening to Lue Elizondo's wife talking about how she wanted more expensive cabinets, and he needed to talk to the Navy to get more money for these cabinets. Jeremy McGowan is a wealth of knowledge.
OG whistleblower,
dude. OG, right? He got so much crap, you know, and
I saw too that he just there's new DMs now, newly leaked DMs from Elizondo, old burner account, faceless bureaucrat, from our source that wishes to remain anonymous for now. The DM from Elizondo disparaging Jeremy McGowan after a fallout with Elizondo. The UFO hate group came hard for McGowan. So again, we're back to this this theme, which is if you say anything negative or, question Lue Elizondo, then you get harassed, threatened, intimidated. And by the way, at this point, I don't believe that he's not aware that these things are happening. And I just want to put on the record, I would never support or condone anybody doing anything like this to defend me or my show or, anything. The fact that he hasn't made a statement, at least like a blanket, like, oh, I don't support or condone anybody harassing people, even if they're critical of me, that would be the right thing to do. He hasn't done it yet. He's got to be aware.
Stephen, that would take humility. That would take honesty, right?
Yeah, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not asking people to do this. He's not directing people to do this.
Yeah, right.
Or manipulating people to do this. But let's
LM
give him
said,
the benefit of the doubt. Even if you know that's happening in your name and they're doing it to defend you,
good point.
You make a statement and you say, I don't condone doing this.
I just had this discussion with a guy. He got into an argument and they posted his mugshot. I have a mugshot, guys. Like, if you go back to the first time I appeared on Steven's show, remember Steven, I wore the Grifter 9000s and I wore like a straw hat. And I was like, hey, no one look me. I wore like a face mask because I was running from a warrant at the time.
A wanted absconder chic.
Yeah, I was literally a wanted absconder, man. And
let's put that on the record just so my audience is aware if they're unaware. Shane had a warrant for his arrest, and somebody from this UFO hate group found out about that. And then what happened, UFO Shane?
So I had worked with my probation officer to not have to go to jail and to be a productive member of society. And I was talking to none other than Uplifting Tweets at the same time as several bounty hunters from out of state pointed AR-15 at me through my crime is not violent. It's actually credit card fraud of my own credit card. Literally it's a whole thing. It's,
but come on, you started talking shit about Lue Elizondo and the next thing as soon as I was like, find out about his warrant and there's guys with
I went to jail. I went to county jail for 32 days. I sat in, I literally had to choke a dude out and beat on the door and yell code red so they'd come get him because he was having crack fits. All of that, which by the way, not 2 or 3 days later, I would have not had to go to jail. I would still be in the same position I'm in now, where I got a job, and I'm doing so well that they put me on 3 months probation, right? But we all make mistakes, but I own up to my mistakes. I will tell you, like, I'm a convicted felon. I'm someone who by the judicial system was prosecuted, and I have to own up to that, right?
Well, also Shane, when you first came on, right, this is something that they do. I think it's worth noting, and actually, LM,
they do background checks on everybody to try.
But not
to
just
find
that,
dirt.
they use like illegal methods to do it. It's like all these former cops are part of that show, and like think they're doing it.
I sat here on Twitter for months, dude, and a lot of people knew about my past. They knew about what I was running from. They knew about what I was dealing with. A lot of people.
Who was the first one to post it, though?
As soon as I saw that Lue was a liar, dude, my mugshot was posted. I was arrested. I live in the middle of nowhere, guys. My mom does not even have my address. Okay? My birth mother does not have my address. You could text her right now, and she would be like, I have no idea. He lives in, like, Northeast Arkansas. Like, she would have no clue where I live. But, and I asked the guys who arrested me, I was like, how the hell?
Yeah, how did you even find me?
I was just like, how? Like, I mean, like, I'm working my PO, and like they're like, yeah, we're getting paid for this because it's a bounty, right? And they were like, it was an anonymous. They told me it was an anonymous internet tip.
Yeah, 3 guesses where that came from.
Yeah, well, it came from me posting pictures of my rest in peace. By the way, my rabbit Steven Mira.
Rest in peace,
I love him every day. Rest in peace, Steve. By the way, don't give your rabbits a bath, guys. It can go kind of bad. And I put him on a heater for two days. But he still died. He was old though. He was like 7 years old. But I love that rabbit. He was my homeboy, and I posted pictures of him. And one of those pictures I posted, and I know this is how it happened, was pointing towards the street. And I live in a small town, and someone, it doesn't take much to do satellite views and find me. And but none of that happened. None of the things I said prior happened until I talked about Lue Elizondo.
I felt so bad that I went trying to find out where he was, because people were telling me that Shane was going to be in jail for like months. And I thought, well, the least I could do is send him some books or something, because I knew what happened. In my view, I knew exactly what happened. They found out that you had a weakness and they could get to you and get you in trouble, and they did it. Which just shows.
It's even dirtier. They knew about it, right? So Shane, one of the first people when you came on the app to post about it was King Milkfart, and he sat on that. Mr. likes to post everyone's criminal record, post everyone's family's criminal record, or make up a random name criminal record. Just sat on this information about Shane for months and just kind of like held it over his head.
My current probation officer, I've had to sit down with him and tell him, like, hey man, like this is gonna sound ridiculous. It's gonna sound crazy. But I'm in this whole UFO thing, and they're going to call you, and they're going to try to tell you that I'm selling drugs. And he's had multiple phone calls from multiple people.
So it keeps up, yeah.
I pass every drug test. I've done so well that I only have to show up every 3 months now. And
good for you.
And
keep it going.
My PO is my homeboy, dude. Like he trusts me. But I've done everything that I've been asked of to do by the state.
Yeah, well, you got to remember those POs are dealing with a lot of low-life scumbags. So when they get a guy like you that's trying to turn things around, got a job, doing what you're supposed to do, they kind of, they slack off of you and worry about the problems.
I brought 340 cans of food for the food drive for they do this thing where you can get community service hours, and I brought enough. It cut my community service in half. And you know what I mean? Like I do everything I'm supposed to do. But like it's okay. I'm not worried about that. I can openly talk about this stuff because I don't, we all make mistakes. We all have problems and stuff like that. But, I had to go to jail again. For, I was running from this, I used to have a lot of money. I used to have everything. And then my mom died, and then I had my experience, and then I got into UFOs. And a lot of the people in this community that I first trusted when I first started, they knew about this. I've never told anyone anything else other than, hey, I'm glad that you're talking to me. But this, I just have to tell you that I am, dealing with this thing right now. Dude, anyone who knows me knows I talked about this. And I want to say, Steven, when I got out of jail, there was a GoFundMe for me, and that paid for the, because by the way, when you go to jail, your rent is still due. Your electric bill is still due. The prosecutor tried to keep me in there for 30 more days, and my judge went, how the hell is he going to pay his rent? Like, we're just going to make this dude homeless? And so she didn't do that. And I could not. I used that GoFundMe money for bills and stuff, and I had no money for groceries. And your show host here, Stephen Cambion, sent me money for groceries.
No, you don't have to. That was between you and I. You don't have to tell people that. I never do something.
You know what?
Like
I'm just saying. You get a lot of shit, Steven.
Oh, I know.
But you get a lot of shit, man.
Well, you're not the only person that I've helped like that, but I keep that private between me and them.
Right?
Because Shane, I was like the black sheep of my family, and my father and I never got along. So like I left home at 16, and I've been homeless and hungry. So I have tremendous empathy for somebody in that situation. And I'm very blessed now that I can help other people so that they don't have to feel like I did. I was destitute and broke and hungry. I was sleeping on park benches in Philadelphia trying to scrape up enough money to like rent a room somewhere. Eventually I climbed out of that situation, but to this day, I have tremendous empathy for people who are food deprived or homeless or whatever.
So you know what it's like to scrounge up that $60 to pay for that room for one night.
$60
a night, guys. By the way, if you're homeless out there and you're struggling, I get it, man. $60, guys. If you're homeless on the street, you're sleeping in the woods. Well, I hope you have $60, right? Because that's going to get you a room. And and
the other thing is it's going to get you a shower and a good night's sleep, because a lot of people don't realize this, but when you see a homeless guy mumbling on the street, it's because he's mentally ill from sleep deprivation. You don't feel safe. You can't sleep right, and you go crazy. It happened to me for a little while.
That's another thing too. And I'm sorry, I don't want to take up the show or nothing with this stuff, but it really does mean a lot to me because, like I meet people in this community that are in the same area as me, and I'm going like, look, man, I get it. Let me send you some money. I've probably in the last year, I've probably given away I just did a competition a while back for what was it, Tupa, like $250 or something. And wasn't it? Was it 250? Tupa?
Yeah, I pitched in $100 on that one.
Yeah, and Tupa put in 100. So I put in 75. Tupa put in 100, and it probably went to a Nigerian scammer. We don't know for sure. I didn't try to do that on purpose.
Your heart was in the right place.
I tried my best.
Let's play this. Let's play this, Jeremy. This video about these DMs.
I love Jeremy. Please.
It's basically been more or less confirmed that the faceless bureaucrat account was Lue Elizondo masquerading as somebody else so he could attack his critics. And here it is. Jeremy is definitely not an ally and is not honest. I hate to speak bad about a fellow veteran, but he is no friend. He is now reaping what he sowed. He's a liar and a manipulator.
Now that McGowan was seen as an enemy, Elizondo made no attempt to stop any of this harassment. McGowan covers the harassment he continues to face in his articles, stating,
"The attacks were constant, non-stop, and often involved my family, my kids, and my wife.
Wow.
People contacted my employer and attempted to get me fired. Others contacted DISA and attempted to get my security clearance revoked. It was an onslaught of hate. Pure, unadulterated hate. I was drowning, and I couldn't catch my breath. My personal number was leaked on Reddit. I received death threats and filed reports with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police.
Wow.
To this day, I am targeted by fanatics or those who have swallowed the blue Lue pill and believe he is the messiah of disclosure. Nearly 5 to 6 times a day, I am still harassed and targeted by new Twitter accounts with only a handful of followers and established members of #UFA Twitter. It's an army of minions who have made me their target. To this day, UAPX receives numerous tweets, direct messages, and emails from people who have me removed from the group.
Elizondo made no attempt to stop any of this harassment.
Wow. Wow, that's something else. And then Tupacabra, I don't want to get too personal. If you don't want to talk about it, I understand. But you had your family attacked and people were making completely false allegations, really heinous one against you. So, there's all these victims of this whole thing. It's
really crazy. You know what sucks is even listening to this. I've heard this probably 10 times, but listening to it again, there's actual messages from Leah Prime saying that she will literally find everyone I work for, everyone I want to work for. She will get in there, she will let them know, whatever. So that matches what happened to McGowan so closely. The reality that we're facing here is it's scary. It's not because they're gonna pull your family into it. Yeah, that's crazy. But all because you criticized or literally decided not to take the blue pill or the Lue pill, and you pose some kind of threat in their mind. Now all of a sudden, all of those tactics are fair game, and it's so dangerous. It's it's not even a minefield. It's just something. It's diabolical, really.
And you mentioned fair game. Just for context for the audience, for those unaware, Scientology has a way of dealing with their critics, and it's a doctrine called fair game. And basically, you accuse them of being a child predator. You accuse them of being an R word. You destroy their reputation, you destroy their business, you destroy their income, you get them fired from their job, you get their neighbors to turn against them. Anything you have to do to silence that critic of the cult, it's fair game. Yeah, and it seems like that this group is using that. And isn't it interesting that Hal Puthoff was once a high-ranking Scientology member? So maybe that's where they're getting these tactics from, or this methodology of silencing dissent and critics. But it's so insane to me. You can't even ask a question or you're the bad guy, And
it's supposed to be UFO truth, right? We want this truth and honesty. And
we're here for the truth and transparency while you're doxing people.
You don't want
when it gets really heinous to me is listen, I have personally had some people do some really nasty shit to me, and maybe in my younger years, you know, I sought revenge against people, but I would never ever even imagine anything somebody could do that would make me attack their wives and their children. You know, that's a level of just that shows the cult-like nature of this. It's just so heinous to go after somebody's children or wife, you know, and in many cases, like my wife has no idea what the hell goes on here. She just calls it me talking to crazy people. She's like, "Are you going to go talk to crazy people?" I say, "Yeah." That, you know, she has no idea what I do.
Stairs, Steven. You're like, "Hey, it's 8 o'clock Central Time. I gotta go. I gotta go up the stairs. I gotta go do this thing, you know."
Yeah,
and she's like, "Okay,
go talk to crazy people." Yeah, so she has no idea what's going on.
You've been doing this for 5 years now. Yeah. You know,
but the fact that they would involve somebody's wife that they probably know has nothing to do with it or doesn't even know what's going on.
When someone takes the low road, and I said this earlier in the space, if someone takes the low road and like you just think like, you know, I need to take the high road. No. Take the lower road. Because they already took the low road. They already took the bad path. Just you know what? Don't even take the road, take the ditch. Like just sit in the muddy ditch.
Honestly,
don't dox them. Don't. Even in the ditch, you wouldn't do that. That's somewhere totally different, right? Like, that's the gross thing about doxing. And you know, when I first joined this community, dude, I was told to hate Tupacabra and hate Red Panda Koala. I was told this.
Oh, I've been told by quite a few people what scumbags they were.
I was told, we don't talk to them anymore. But you know what? Like, Red Panda Koala over there, like this guy, is one of my heroes, dude. When I was struggling with drug addiction and I was living in a hotel every day, his videos got me through the night, and I would never forget when I first saw him.
He makes great videos. Yeah, that's kind of what I did when people were like, "Oh, this Red Panda Koala, he's an asshole." I'm like, "Have you seen his videos? They're great. Like,
they're amazing. They'll praise his videos, but then unpraise him in spaces." And then the same thing with Tupa. Someone recently posted a bunch of things where I was going off on Tupa about a bunch of things, right? Dude, I couldn't.
Some of the attacks are stupid, right? Like, "Oh, you stole artwork."
I just don't see it.
Tupa, oh, he stole artwork.
That's my favorite.
He ripped off a rapper for his gimmick or his name, and that's disrespectful.
Tupac's been dead for like 26 years.
Yeah, they like they started to threaten like, "Oh, well, I wonder if Tupac's estate knows about this." It's like,
what
okay,
about Tupac's great aunt? Like, she's out there trying to get that $54. Like, dude, I talked.
Didn't they even go after like your grandma or something? Tupacabra, like. They involved your grandma in this.
They shared a picture. They shared a picture of what they thought was my house, and they were, you know, the whole address and everything. And then it turned out to be my grandmother's house. They got their information wrong, and so then they were like,
"They do that a lot."
Whatever. Then they posted her full name, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't know that his grandma blank." That's like, yeah, it's on a website now. They continue. One of the craziest things they did is they went through my family's Facebook accounts, and then they grabbed photos of my nieces and nephews, like while they were children, like young children, and then made profile pictures, like accounts with their profile picture, with their picture as the profile. One of them was my nephew holding a certificate that had his name and his school. So like that was what was the post that they posted to me? What was the comment that they made that entire account? They went through and got my nephew's photograph and put it in there. What was the comment they made?
It's like a 4-year-old, by the way, too, like very young.
Yeah, 4 years old. 4 years old. The comment was, "You know, Klaus and Ray had nothing to do with this. Shut up, little boy." So they literally went out of their, like, you know who's behind this one.
They wanted you to know that they knew where your children in your family, who they were, and where they went to school.
Yeah.
So they could get to you.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people would just shut up. You know, like, I'm not gonna deal with people this crazy. I think that's the tactic that they think. You know, like, if we just show them how crazy we are, they'll shut up and go away. And some people have.
A lot of people have, actually.
But I'm like the least crazy. I'm the nice guy in my family, so I'm not worried about. I'm worried about these guys if they keep going after him. You know, even my nephews.
All of Jimenez's co-host kind of got ran out of the community.
Well,
right?
I kind of think it's funny when some of these keyboard warriors threaten me or my family, because all I'll say is, look, man, I grew up on the mean streets of Philadelphia. My uncles were all pagan motorcycle gang people. I know so many scary people. Like, are you stupid? Like, really? You think you're just gonna come to my home and threaten my family? Like, this is you're dumb. If you were dumb, anybody dumb enough to do that deserves whatever happens to them. And I won't say too much, except I have a great security system here, and I'm a big supporter of all my amendment rights. We'll leave it at that. Like,
you built the cabin with your bare hands, Steven. You're obviously a badass, dude. But I want to say that just real quick. Tupa and Red are Spaces guys, right? They're always in Spaces.
I wish I could get into it. I hate them. I can't stand
I know you
the
do.
Spaces.
I
hate them.
I know. I had to beg you that one night to co-host with me. It was
I'm supposed to start doing them, but I've been supposed to start doing them forever.
Well, yeah, you promised Axelrod you'd do it, bro, and I haven't seen it. I remember
it's a good
tweet.
stream.
I have it saved on
Whenever
my phone.
you're looking for a stream thing, just open a space and stream it to your channel.
Yeah, dude, just do it, man. Just do it.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that with Jess.
I want to say that like Tupa and Klaus and Ray, like they've all gone too far with each other at times, but they all get frustrated. They all get upset. But if it wasn't for the UFO topic, they'd probably chill and have a beer. And it wasn't until Tupa or Red or me or anyone had a different opinion on this UFO topic, right? That the shotguns start getting fired, right? The dragon's breath gets fired. It has to do with like your belief and that's, guys, I know there's people hate watching this show. I know for a fact there are, because as much as you hate Stephen Cambion or you hate Stephen Greenstreet, let Stephen Cambion join my space and my viewership will go up 100-fold. Let Greenstreet join Tupacabra.
Yeah, but some of those people are just coming in there to call me a cocksucker or yell at me.
Exactly. But they're hate watching because confirmation bias is a bitch. And if it wasn't for this, we'd all get along, right? Like we have different opinions. But I will say this much to all of you. If you have something to say against my reporting or Tupa's reporting or Red Panda's reporting or Stephen Cambion's reporting, then give us the facts that go against the facts. Like
they never do. They never do.
I literally used to okay, this is a true story. I was in Spaces and I was starting to doubt things. And this chick named Heather Birdie told me, you would love Stephen Cambion. And I loved Linda Moulton House, Stephen. I thought she was the bee's knees. And I went back and watched, I went through your videos and watched them, dude. I've been a member of your show for the last year. I make sure that I have enough money to pay you for the membership.
I appreciate that. Praise the cash, bitches.
Praise the cash, dude. And by the way, praise the cash live in the live chat here.
Oh, and that's the thing. What is this new thing now that like Matt Ford is saying that the skeptics and debunkers are making bank? Like, it's so stupid. Like, yeah, right. We make,
and he's literally part of a company called the UAP Disclosure Fund. That's like designed to get money from people.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
We make like 1% of what the grifter channels do.
Dude, you're being nice with 1%, dude. Because if you talk to Lou,
and by the way, I always have to say, I'm thankful for any support I get. I'm very fortunate in that, like, I don't have to live off of this, and I refuse to live off of UFO dollars. That's why I don't have to lie to people every day.
Well,
if I had to, pay my bills off of this,
if you lie every day,
it would be a
grift. End up like David Wilcox.
Oh,
you end up living in like a beautiful, like, wooden mansion, and then you just worrying. Like, you walk out on your porch and just looking around like, who's gonna find out I'm lying today?
Oh,
I'm
he's
in this beautiful
paranoid.
place anyone would end up in. But
yeah, I got him swatted. Remember, he's so paranoid. He's telling people I got him swatted. And
dude,
we got
I worked a 12-hour day, Stephen. I worked a 12-hour day, and someone DM'd me and they said, "Hey, Stephen Cambion, you know him?" I was like, "Yeah, I know him pretty good." He got the footage. And I was like, "What footage?" It was like the body cam footage. And so I stayed up. I had 4 hours of sleep the next day at work. I stayed up and watched that entire show, man.
That was great.
He was like, Stephen Cambion's a Satan worshiper. And,
yes, he called me a Satan worshiper and a child predator.
I was swatted. 14,000 officers descended on my estate.
David Wilcox did it like an hour on me, and he showed people tweets from 2018. He showed people tweets from from 2018 of me wearing the UFO Lucifer devil mask, and then he told his followers that I was a Satan worshiper, and I was also a child predator, a P word.
Dude, talk
and
about
then he told
fumbling
everybody
the bag.
that I got him swatted, and he kept saying that I got him swatted. So I got lucky. I called the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. I'm trying to explain to them, like, and I got what I call chatty Cathy, right? That's when you call somebody at work and they're bored as shit, so they're like chatty, you know, and they're happy to help you. And this girl that I got was like, well, you can get the body cam footage. I'm like, what do you mean? There's body cam footage? She said, yeah, all of our officers, including animal control, they all wear body cams through their whole work shift. So you gotta, and she told me how to fill out the forms. So we got the body cam footage, and Wilcox said I got him swatted. Right. And what it turned out to be is an animal control officer knocked on his door. He didn't answer. So she taped her business card to his door. And we have it on film.
It's on film.
We have it on film. Yeah.
Dude, who other than Corey Good, other than Dave Wilk and Corey Good, have fumbled the bag as hard as these fucking guys?
Well, that's a good point though too. Is that these UFO cults aren't new, right? Or UFO cults of personality. It's actually like probably one of the most common.
And one of the reasons I'm so skeptical, I was so skeptical of Lue, is because I was there through the whole Corey Good thing, and I saw the same thing happen with him. They pumped him up to be this big messianic figure, and then he started turning into Hitler and doing weird shit. All this stuff that we're talking about with Lue Elizondo and the hate group, there was a Corey Good hate group that did the same stuff. They had private Facebook groups where they would plan on doxing people, plan attacks, make memes, calling people the P word. And under oath,
Billy Meyer had one too, right? You hear about that?
Yeah, under oath, Corey Good admitted that his manager paid the neighbor of Bill Ryan to take pictures of his house so that they could make a video threatening him. Like, that's just...
See, when I watch those videos, I allegedly think, so maybe, imagine, I'll just use the Lue thing. Your mother's not a hooker. What if there was a day where Lue Elizondo and KMF were like in one of those like deposition videos, like the Corey Good and David Wilcock one? That would be hilarious. We'd all have to watch it together.
Well, yeah, it may happen. Listen, there's some people that will respond incredibly aggressively to the kind of things that we've all been talking about here. You know, like they're gonna do this to the wrong person who has like law enforcement ties, or maybe ties with their local DA or family or something. They're gonna do this to the wrong person, and it's very likely they're going to do this to the wrong person someday, and they're going to face some consequences that won't be pretty for them.
But hasn't that already happened, Stephen? Like with the dude who thought his family was reptilians and he killed them in the UK? Like,
Chris Gray? Yeah, they come.
Yeah, hasn't that already happened? Like, you know, like how far do you need to go?
I know people who are actually, she said it in a public space, Jess and also Deep Prasad, both were targeted by KMF and Chris Gray.
Dude,
they both said that it's the same group conducting.
It's the same group of people, yeah.
But Deep Prasad used to join my spaces and chill with me all the time. And then as soon as he found out I went to jail, he blocked me.
No, it was when he found out you were friends with KMF, who is doing.
I wasn't, dude. No, like no. I talked to him about that deeply, dude, every time. Also, someone in the chat saying that they're my doxer. Thank you. Because my life is better
Steven,
now.
And maybe you could give me this back channel, but if you know anyone from like the Corey Good stuff, because I know there was like an element of doxing, and like you said, that got the ball rolling on the other side. That'd probably be a good connection to make, because there is a lot of similarities. I want to reach out to some of the ex-Scientologists too, see some of the stuff they do. But yeah, with all the information coming out, and honestly, like, did you guys see that Manuk thing or UFO Joe, where like they're like saying that like Stratton, his wife, is saying that Elizondo stole their story and stuff, and apparently Stratton's book is going to be all calling him a fraud and a liar. Like, it's all tumbling around.
I doubt it.
That's in my notes. I was going to talk about that next, because one of the things that I can't stand is that there's 5 or 6 statements from the Pentagon all saying Lue Elizondo had no assigned responsibilities around UFOs. He had no assigned responsibilities with ATIP or OSAP. He had nothing to do with UFOs. But then people always throw that Harry Reid letter up. And now I heard Stephen Greenstreet in one of your spaces, and this Manuk one of those people. People are claiming, and this is alleged, we don't have proof of this yet. People are claiming that Lue Elizondo took advantage of Senator Harry Reid when he had brain cancer and was getting chemo treatments, and that Reid didn't write the letter, he did, and Reid just put on his letterhead and signed it. I don't know if that's true, but if that becomes confirmed, that will show like a purposeful, willful intent to deceive people and run a grift, basically.
100%.
It won't matter though. It won't.
And Manook said Stratton and his wife told him that, and then Stephen Greenstreet said, "I have corroborating evidence to back up all this."
Greenstreet said he has receipts to back up all this Manook's claims.
But you can walk up the street of a cult. You can walk into the farm that they have, and you can show them every bit of evidence against the cult, and you won't save a single person.
Well,
no, you'll save a couple.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think the only way you would do it would be to infiltrate the cult and slowly like ungroom them. I've watched a lot of cult documentaries and it never goes good.
Yeah, but this cult hasn't really it's in its fledgling state where it can still masquerade as something else.
No, it's not. It's been going on for 80 years, dude. It's not in the fledgling
cult,
state.
I think is
I disagree with that completely. It's been
in the bigger picture, sure, but even before then there was like,
what does that mean?
Well, I mean, you could zoom out far enough and be like, it does kind of like it has been going on for 80 years.
There's all these
I don't know, man. I don't know.
On these allegations, though, the basic allegations are that Jay Stratton and his wife are basically saying that Lue Elizondo stole a lot of his story from Jay Stratton.
Yes,
I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet.
They lay it out.
Jennifer also lied on TV, right?
All the orbs.
Wow.
The orb story. You haven't mentioned this orb story a single time in all of your interviews, dude. Like I would.
Well, he also never went so far. He always danced around like, oh well, we may not be alone. He never said the government's in possession of alien spacecraft and bodies. But then Grush came out and said that and got away with it with no evidence. So I guess he thought he could too, Yeah. But these evidence-free stories, I don't get it. Like, don't you need some proof before you just believe these people?
And honestly,
especially when they have a record of lying and embellishing and exaggerating and lying on his resume, lying to TTSA investors. We got spaceship parts. No, you don't.
I think Shane brought it up, and I could play it real quick. I'm set up, but did you see Lue saying that he didn't film any of these orbs that are visiting his family for 5 years?
Yeah, I saw that on Theories of Everything. Asked him why he didn't film it, and he squirmed.
Shane set it up. Go ahead.
I got it. If you want to add it to the stage, there we go. Yeah. So this was wild, bro.
I mean, or like I'm looking at this monitor right now. It's bright, but it doesn't hurt my eyes. It's like a passive illumination. It wasn't like it was glowing. It wasn't like an active spotlight in your eyes. It was just a diffuse green ball, and as we got closer to it, it seemed to get thicker and thicker in the middle.
Did this dickhead listen to my Coast to Coast AM show?
It literally looked like a neon light.
Hold on,
where it was more brilliant in the center, and it just became more diffuse. I could not. There was no hard edges. There did not seem to be any technology behind it. There wasn't a device, if you will, inside. It was like, you know what? Probably the best way, like a plasma ball, but not as intense. Not as violent, if that makes sense.
Did you ever set up cameras?
So no, we didn't have cameras inside the house. We had cell phones, but back in 2010, I was using a BlackBerry, a government issued BlackBerry, where we did not have cameras. The cameras were disabled. So I did never, and also we couldn't predict the frequency. It wasn't like I had a camera next to me all the time. It's like when you're sitting down and watching a TV show with a family, all of a sudden, whoop, there it goes.
I just mean home set up cameras in the corner, monitoring a room or the outside.
No, we did not. We had
baby monitor could have caught this.
We had an alarm system
for $30.
We did not have
2010 technology, Stephen. That's
many people may say, look, if there's
a
burglar that taps, a suspected burglar that taps on my window, perhaps I'm paranoid, but I would set up the next day 10 cameras all around my house, inside,
sure, outside. I would too if it's a burglar.
Now, that may be an overreaction, but
well, let me ask you this: when
make excuses
when there's a thunderstorm near your neighborhood, do you set up cameras to look
what
at the
does
lightning?
this mean?
No, it's interesting, but most people.
What do you mean
just
there's
look
a
at some of that
thunderstorm, Stephen? What do you mean?
Right? Wow, interesting.
He's talking about alien spaceballs in his house aren't interesting.
It rains outside your house, Stephen. You're so scared. You set up 25,000 cameras.
It didn't occur to you to set up cameras when you said no. It just never occurred to you. the thought.
because it wasn't that. It wasn't
This was
alarming to
lying.
us.
The thought
It was,
never.
it was curious. We were curious about it, but we didn't
What
know
an
where it was going to appear.
excuse.
Right, sometime in the hallway, sometimes in the kitchen.
That's one of the only
What is-
hard questions he asked this guy too. Otherwise, he
Yeah.
just let him ramble for 20 minutes at a time
Dude,
about nothing.
His
It's
analogy
pathetic.
was more in depth than his description of the so-called phenomena that he witnessed firsthand for all those years and never got a single picture.
But then listen to this. It's so stupid. He's talking about how incredible it was that he and his wife were experiencing these alien space balls in their house all the time. And then he just said, well, it wasn't that interesting, so we didn't set up cameras.
We did the
You
math
know,
too
like-
in a space today. It was over 5 years, once every 2 to 3 weeks. So that would be 86 different orb visitations. Yeah.
Wow.
And
isn't it fun
let me
that
ask a question. Let
the
me ask a
blue
question,
balls
Steve.
were the bad guys, proving once again that having
LOL.
blue balls is bad. The green
Let me ask
ones
you a
were the
question.
good guys. Apparently,
That's
the blue
science.
balls-
This
Yes.
question goes out to Stephen Camby and Tupacabra Red, Panda Koala. It rains outside your house. Lightning strikes. Your power goes out for 30 seconds. It comes back on. The next day, when you wake up, do you go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of Ring cameras? Like, that was crazy. There was like a thunderstorm. His analogy to Kurt's question was that
It's so stupid. Yeah, we're talking about
makes no
space
sense.
orb ball, plasma balls flying around
I'm
your house,
confused.
and a thunderstorm that's an every month occurrence. That's nothing
Right.
special that you've seen thousands of times before. You know, and is there some rumors that that's not even his story? That's Stratton.
Yes,
That
that's
happened
what
to
makes this
Stratton?
really juicy. Is that Stratton? This story might belong to Stratton and his wife, and the news broke about this right from that Manuk Twitter account. Some news broke about this, and the rumor mill was already going circulating about if Lue was going to do this. And even
And I heard
Manuk
Green
said-
Street say that there was months ago, before the book came out, Green Street said that there was fractures in the community of these true believers because Lue Elizondo was taking other people's stories and
Yes.
putting them in the book as his own.
Yes, and they were
And you
saying,
know-
"Hey, that didn't happen to you. That happened to me."
Yeah.
And yeah. So that there's a good chance that orb story is not his. And when I watch the video, when I watch him say it, it's clear that he's avoiding. You know, he's struggling to get details about this phenomenon that happened 86 times. He's. It seems very sketchy.
It's like he's lying about it, but not just that. It's like he's lying about it for the first time. Like he's trying to come up with the lie on the spot.
It's very dude. When you said that he might be a pathological liar, I had never considered that. But when I watch the interviews now, it's kind of all I can think about. Like,
Well, that's what all the people around him say. McGowan, Lue reviews, and they say he'll lie about like dumb, kind of inconsequential stuff, right?
That's a pet. In my neighborhood growing up, we had this guy that always was like that, and they just lie about everything, even stuff that, like you said, it's like meaningless, inconsequential stuff. You know, like this kid was in the hospital for his tonsils, and he said that the nurse gave him a BJ, and we're like, "Come on, you liar! Like, really? You know?"
Wow.
I don't know, but you're right. I think that people, if they're pathological, they lie about like everything, even stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to lie about.
It's part of their social interaction. Like they believe that part of the social interaction between them and other people has to include these fake details that they're learning about you on the spot, things that you might like, things that you might think are cool, weird stuff like that. It's like cold reading.
Yeah, and do you remember when McGowan came out with his blog where he explained that Lue basically told him he had superpowers and he was psychic and all this stuff? He got like attacked mercilessly for suggesting that Lue really said that. Oh, Lue wouldn't say that. He's a grounded intelligence officer. He's not a woo guy. And then we get the book. Oh, I have superpowers. So
yeah, it's like the stuff in the book is even more.
It's even more woo. Yeah, and more crazy.
A lot of remote viewers in the community, even, right? I don't know how y'all feel about it, right? But there's some people I respect that, at least I know, have studied it, right? And they're even like, the stuff Lue's saying in this book about remote viewing doesn't even really check out with anything I've come across. Like, he's inventing new concepts of remote viewing, and it's like you said, McGowan was attacked for this exact thing. Green Street too. Like, if you go back,
it's like a guy who doesn't really know anything about remote viewing just deciding to lie and say he can do that. because you're right. I'm very familiar with Stargate and the protocols that they used and the meditative techniques, and he's kind of off on a limb. Like remote viewing is his own way of doing it or something, which doesn't make any sense because it doesn't align with any of the other stuff.
He would probably flounder harder than that orb story. It's like, Lou, what are your protocols for remote viewing? I bet he'd be like,
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's another thing. This inability that he has to take a hard interview is really just telling to me. Like, if you can't answer, to this day, nobody ever has asked him, and he's done hundreds of interviews. Nobody's ever said, hey, why did you promise TTSA investors that you were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world and then not do any of that? Why did you imply or heavily imply that you and TTSA had alien spaceship parts and you were going to do all this research on them and then we got no results? You know, or why did you lie to the New York Times? These are very basic, simple questions that everybody fails to ask him. And I'm just blown away. Every interview I see, I'm like, God, if they only knew what they're missing here, you know,
it's
like
for the good of the
Rogan
whole movement, right? It's
Yeah.
like they demonize you and Green Street, but it's like these issues are gonna cause everything to just collapse. Like they should be everybody who's like all of a sudden like shocked that there's this divide should be
someday he's
thinking-
gonna someday. And listen, I am not going to spill the beans here, but here's what I will say: someday he's going to go on the wrong show who has spoken to me and gotten a full briefing and you know, instructed on the whole history. And here's some great questions you could ask. If you really want a great gotcha moment, ask this. If you really want, he's going to go on the wrong show one day. He cannot hide from this shit forever, because you'd be surprised with some of the people that have contacted me for like some background on a guest that they were going to have. And this specific show, they basically canceled on a few people because they didn't want to be perceived as like, you know, platforming a con artist, essentially. You know, the problem with some of these bigger shows is that they don't know the minutia. They don't have a full understanding, and they just see views like, oh, if we do a UFO show, we're going to get views, you know. And you'd be surprised the number of shows that want to dip their feet in that, but they get the wrong people, you know. I mean, we've seen it. Look at Sean Ryan. He basically ran a clown show for like weeks, right? With these Greer fake whistleblowers, and it was a clown show.
Billy
you know?
Carson too. I'm always surprised at how far Billy Carson's able to get, and then some of these other, I'd say better, like John Greenwald, right? Like, why is Billy Carson on Rogan, but John Greenwald hasn't been on Rogan? You know what I mean? Like,
I would think that Rogan, or I would think that John Greenwald is a perfect guest for Rogan, because you could talk about the Kennedy files and government
100%.
cover-ups, and he never got on there. Somebody asked earlier about Greenwald's take on these documents. I think he's wrong, and what I think is that's just my opinion, but I'm entitled to it. I think that the documents and those emails that Lou sent were to establish a paper trail, because he was concocting this story. He wanted to be, somebody's got to get to Neil Tipton. Remember, in those emails, he basically said, I'm handing over the reins of this program to you, Neil Tipton.
Unprompted.
I have it on good authority that Neil Tipton had no idea what he was talking about and never did anything with that portfolio, which proves it wasn't a real program. But I can't confirm that yet. You know,
something I like that Green Street said was if there was more documents, they would show it more than just this Tipton letter and the Harry Reid letter, right? Like, there's all these documents for Lukatsky and Stratton.
They would be briefing
would,
documents for Tipton, and there'd be meeting notes with Tipton having meetings about taking over this portfolio. Somebody needs to get on the record comment from Neil Tipton. And by the way, I tried and have been very unsuccessful at communicating with him. But he could clear up so much, because imagine if Tipton just came out and said, yeah, I mean, I remember getting that email and being confused. I didn't know what it was about. And then you could follow up question like, well, what happened after Lou resigned? Did you continue this program or this unofficial effort? And I guarantee that Tipton's going to say no, because it didn't exist. It was like, it was like a hobby club, a bunch of guys talking in emails and stuff and sharing stuff. It wasn't a real thing, you know. That's another part of this facade I think it's going to come crashing down. Somebody's going to get to that guy, you know. And this stuff with Stratton, like what are all the Lue Crew guys going to do if Stratton comes and just destroys all these stories, especially saying that orb story was mine and I told you that story, and suddenly he's saying that happened to him and it's in his book. That's going to be incredibly damaging, don't you think?
Totally. I think some of them will make excuses, but I've already seen like Fessler's show, which is like Lue Crew. They kind of were going with the Stratton's wife is crazy narrative, like she doesn't know what she's talking about. But if he says that point blank, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Tupa? If he says it point blank that like this guy stole my story, will that be the nail in the coffin for Lue? Or will there still be people being like, he did so much good, it doesn't really matter?
I'll say this: if Stratton is the guy that Green Street says he is, then Lue doesn't stand a chance. Lue doesn't stand a chance. If Lue tries to stick up, then what'll happen, right? He'll try to tell his little trolls to stand down. Stratton, I don't think, is playing around. If they come after him or his wife, or if they start, you know what I mean? If they're heavy-handed like that to this dude, I think this dude is the guy that they shouldn't mess with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like I said, they're going to do this to the wrong person one of these days, and that's going to be a huge problem for them, or could be a huge problem for them. You know? Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next, but it's like a bad soap opera, you know? Like it's so bad it's good, and you can't wait to see what happens next. And that's why I'm listening in your spaces like, oh, this is some spicy shit going on here. Like these
floodgates. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think UFO Joe's doing a stream about all this with that Manuk guy, and he's been kind of saying that like Manuk's right, kind of UFO Joe, right? And you see a lot of
Isn't
these
that guy like fervent Lue Crew for
yes,
the
that's what I'm
longest time?
saying. A lot of these Lue Crew people
So
are, like,
that's
streaming
why I
about shit.
titled "Is the Lue Cult Unraveling?" because it seems like there's a lot of people that used to be fervent Lue supporters that would attack people and threaten people and, you know, go after people that were critical of Lue that are now becoming very critical of Lue. It's funny to see that shift happening. You think we're going to get a lot more soon in the next couple of weeks?
I'm trying to look up what Eric Davis said. Eric Davis basically called him a liar on Facebook too, and said Stratton's going to correct the record in his book. Like, yeah, I think so. I think
the dam is broken, dude. It broke down. This is going to be probably nonstop, I think, for the next couple months, and that's just the way it looks like to me. More and more keeps coming out. We know we got like David Grush trying to get a lawsuit together against the sheriff's department, who supposedly leaked his information to Ken Klippenstein. We don't know what this like Sawan business was about. I mean, that could be anything, but that's more things that have coming out during
yeah,
during
and I'm also, I can't say any more than what I'm about to say, but here's what I will say. I am aware that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is quiet for a reason, because maybe he signed some documents and maybe under contract, and we're going to be hearing an awful lot from him in the next, year.
They went hard at him too, right? And that's the thing. It's not just UFO YouTubers. At NASA's first hearing, and I think you covered it when it happened, like 4 of the panelists spoke about harassment. And at the second hearing, they spoke about harassment too. Sean Kirkpatrick has spoken about the harassment from the UFO community at basically every public speaking event and interview he's done. Right?
And isn't that so bizarre? Like, if you don't confirm our belief that aliens are visiting Earth, we're going to get you. Like, that is so bizarre that people would go that far and attack strangers because they didn't find evidence of aliens.
It's bizarre for normal people. It's not that bizarre for Scientologists. I'll say that. This is like very normal behavior for certain groups of people.
Wow. And yeah, there's a people don't realize this, but there's a lot of connections of Scientology to UFOs. Hal Puthoff and his wife were high-ranking Scientology members. Christopher Mellon's brother, I believe, was a Scientologist. Richard Dolan's wife, Tracy, that's where she got her remote viewing superpowers from Scientology.
All the Project Stargate, Ingo Swann said there was 14 OT7s on that first batch of Stargate. That's the highest number I found. Danny Sheehan was L. Ron Hubbard's lawyer at one point in time and is also Lue Elizondo's lawyer today.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, a lot more connections than even I was aware of.
A lot of the beliefs too, I think people would be really surprised, like that you see popular here, right? Like past lives, right? Like Leslie Keen's all about that right now, right? that's a Scientology thing. Not saying that's like only in Scientology, but like remote
It's
viewing.
one of their
right? That's a
beliefs,
big-
though. Yeah.
Yeah, remote viewing is a big Scientology thing. Danny Sheehan actually was on a podcast recently, and he said that Scientologists believe there's a war between the Zeta Reticulans and the Nordics, and that this is one of the Scientology big beliefs. And it's like, you got to think like Zeta Reticuli, that comes up in like Betty and Barney Hill lore and Bob Lazar
Yes,
lore,
it's
right?
the Greys versus the Nordics had a battle, I guess.
So like UFO lore is pretty entrenched into their actual religion, more so than I'd say like Christianity or any of those. And you don't see any of them really around or open about it, right? Because I've heard you say that about Dolan's wife, and I've never seen like I believe it though, honestly, but
I don't
have
I don't have receipts for that other than having several people tell me that. And I think if multiple people that don't know each other are telling me that, that's safe to say it. And I always say, Richard Dolan, you're free to email me, and if I'm incorrect, I will on air apologize and say that is incorrect according to Richard Dolan or his wife. You know, they've never corrected me. You know, and they're selling a course in how you too can get remote viewing superpowers for $169. I was thinking of taking the course. I was thinking of taking the course and then suing Richard Dolan and his wife in small claims court because I didn't get my superpowers. But I didn't follow up on that.
I like the first part. That sounds fun. Just kind of taking the course for shits and giggles anyway, seeing what goes on. But what if you actually got superpowers? That was what did it.
I'd have to apologize then and say, God damn it, superpowers are real. Then I'd start remote viewing tomorrow's lottery numbers and prove it again, you know? Yeah, and that's one of the things about remote viewing that bothers me, because adherents and true believers of remote viewing say that you can view any place, anytime, which, you know, the first thing I would do if I could do that is I would go remote view tomorrow's newspaper and read the lottery numbers off the newspaper or whatever, and then I would play those numbers. You know, nobody does that. I think that is kind of damaging proof that shit's not real. But I will say this: I've looked into so many different psychics, and the most amount of research into anything psychic that has ever been done has been remote viewing, and some people swear that it's sometimes effective in some cases with some people. So I don't want to completely discount it, but I haven't seen real evidence or proof that convinces me, you know. And a lot of studies have determined that it's no better statistics wise than just guessing. You could put a remote viewer, ask him, what are you seeing? And just somebody that's not a remote viewer, just guess. And the statistically, they're about the same. So who knows? Do you think Lue Elizondo will sell a course in remote viewing someday when the grift gets really bad? I think so.
I think so. He's starting a YouTube channel. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes,
So
I
maybe
did.
on there.
Yeah. Well, he sees that weaponized sweet dollars and he wants to get in on it, I guess. And, you know, I think it was Steve Long that pointed out Lue Elizondo has started, is it 4 or 5 for-profit UFO companies since 2017?
TTSA, Skyfort, UAPDF. What's the in-between one? I don't think he was part of Skull.
I'm going to look it up now. But, yeah, I'm sure that Steve Long tweeted this list of them, you know. And that bothers me too. Like when you say like this guy's here for money and people argue with you, oh, he's not making any money and his family took a big hit financially for him to do this, you know. Okay, but why is he starting all these for-profit UFO companies? Okay, so it was TTSA, then it was Skyfort, then it was Phenom AI Non, and then it was Disco Volente and Quantum Frontier. So that's
and
5.
UAPDF.
Oh, UAP.
The UAP Disclosure Fund, the new one with Matt Ford.
Well, I think that's a weird form of, yeah. And isn't that interesting? I think that's supposed to be a nonprofit, but the way they filed the paperwork is for a specific kind of nonprofit that doesn't have to share how much money they take in. It's like a 501c.
So the Disclosure Fund is anti-disclosure of their funds. That's really funny.
That's what the funny part about it is.
Okay.
We want transparency and we want disclosure. Great. How much did you collect last year? Well, we're not going to tell you that. We're not going to tell you that. And
next question.
I was so disappointed when I found that out, because I thought that they had registered as a 501c3 and would therefore have to file the 990s. And I thought, oh, I'm going to have a big story next year when they file their first paperwork. I can show everybody how much they collected and what they did with the money. Whatever they filed as, they don't have to disclose the money, which is funny. The disclosure fund doesn't have to disclose how much money they collected.
To get some money from the UAPDA, if it there's some like clause in there for like organizational funding, and I think they might get some of that.
Of course, yeah. And McGowan today had an interesting, I don't know, I guess you could call it an article on X or Twitter about the methodology that they're using. You know, drum up all of this media attention, then you start pressuring the senators, you know, and now you're the experts on that issue. So after the senators are ginned up to do something, you convince them that you're the experts and the best people to deal with the problem. Therefore, you get the contracts instead of somebody else. It's a grift, man. And how about the number of these organizations, right? You have Americans for Safe Aerospace. You have these 5 that we just mentioned. You have the Soul Foundation. You have the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, who, by the way, there's such a scientific coalition for UAP studies that they banned me and Stephen Greenstreet from their Facebook group. We're not allowed to see what they're talking about in there. This is not a science organization. Science organizations are not banning journalists. You know, it's so stupid.
And they all sprung up really quickly too. And now that we can kind of see the thin ice that the narrative was built on, right? It kind of makes, for me, I'm starting to see some stuff make sense where I'm like, okay, they knew that there was only a certain amount of time before they can get their company established, before like people started really snooping around and looking for stuff. Like I thought at first they were just kind of waiting, like little sharks, you know,
waiting for contracts.
Yes, just waiting for contracts to come in.
Yeah.
But you know, now that we know that there might have been a time limit, there might have been some shelf life involved with this stuff, dude. Very, very sketchy.
Travis Taylor and Stratton, or Travis Taylor and somebody else has a for-profit company too. Was it Radiance or something? Maybe Radiance Technology,
something like that. I mean, they keep springing up. Everybody who's everybody has them. It's reminding me of like insider trading.
Okay.
You know,
I just want to mention Shane. Somebody asked what happened to Shane. He worked 14 hours and he had to bail out, and I don't blame him. So that's fine.
Yeah, and rest.
I wanted to ask you, Tupa, about this. In better news, this UFO timeline project. Can you just tell us about that and what is it? What it'll be used for? What it includes? Because for me, a student of history, and here's a problem that I think we have. You know how people get so excited because Dave Grush said the government has bodies and spacecraft?
Yes.
And I think the problem is that they don't know the history, that Dave Grush is like the 100th person to claim that with no evidence. But your timeline, you could do something, maybe perhaps, I'm asking, could you do something like put recovered bodies into a search? And then it'll all pop up on the timeline, everybody that's talked about this?
Yeah.
That would be a great research tool.
I think it's going to be awesome. I shared it I'm sharing my screen. If you want to pop it up, I'll show you what it can do right now.
Look at this.
So right now we're in the stage of kind of just building it out, getting more cases in, seeing how it looks and feels with more cases. But this is every case on here that we have now is on the screen. And what we can start to do is just take them away whenever we wanted to, category by category. And if you zoom in, you're going to see more cases appear. And that's because, you know, you're zooming in, you're being able to see more detail along the timeline. So you could turn all of these off if you wanted to. And so these are just different categories. If you didn't want them in the mix for searching, you could do that. I'm also adding something where you can exchange these or swap these categories out for new ones.
Nice.
Custom made ones, community built ones, all that stuff. And so right now you can see every case on here. And if we just go to like saucer, these are some toggles, and just hit saucer, like the only thing left on the screen are the cases that involve saucers. And then
Wow.
if we wanted to do
you could
like
do that with triangle shaped crayons.
yeah, you could do triangles. So this is both triangles and saucers. Both can be selected. You could stack the toggles or just turn off
Nice.
saucers. You know, people said like triangles really came out in the 80s. Well, I never really saw any evidence of that. I wasn't sure, but here you can see like triangles are really started here in the 80s.
Well,
And
that's
so,
interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting to see like these patterns and kind of like what's going on. And then you can also combine these with other toggles. So this is like entity type. So you can like do like, okay, like saucers with
say if there was
grays.
triangles with grays or something.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
awesome.
So this the only thing left is what you've selected to see. Now there's other ways, right? Like here in the search bar, you could search for things like crash, and then if a crash is mentioned somewhere in the details of the case, then you're good to go. Like it will bring up only the crashes, and the same thing for like landings. But I'm going to make these like the landing parts like other like things like more toggles, more filters. And yeah, it's all about being able to identify cases really quick and then bring them up really quick. You do the same thing if you typed in like these are search fields as well. So like date, if you just wanted the date, the year, if you just knew a little bit about the case, you could still find out. Like if you wanted to look up cases in Texas. So here, like all the cases from Texas.
Here's a great question though. Does it have an ability to community note if the case has been debunked?
Yeah, so I'm trying to add in all the extra information that the case could kind of need, including the debunking information. And I know that the UFO cases themselves are always going to be kind of like contended. So I added a feature for members, right? They can vote thumbs up or thumbs down, right? You can essentially say this was great or this wasn't. And if I get enough notifications, like, okay,
so if it's an
obviously
extremely
people hate this.
weak debunk, people can just downvote it and say like that doesn't explain it 100% or
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
fair.
And if you
it's
wanted
fair.
to offer your own like research, I'm basically going to save this thing for like people who like want to create profiles on the site. But you could like add your own debunk, you could add your own notes, and then if it's good, and other people can upvote those notes too. Like, oh shit, this guy's crushing it. Like they could follow you if they wanted to. So there's all kinds of social stuff that I want to add to this. But yeah, the first step is getting people to have a voice on if the case is good or if it's bad, or if it was a good breakdown or it was a bad breakdown. And then there's also all kinds of stuff for like I think a deep dive button, so you can really get like into the information, check it out, read reports, look at the papers. All that stuff.
I love the history side of things like this, so I would love this. And also, like I said, I think that most people, they get into UFOs and they don't understand this massive history here. So maybe they get a little too excited when somebody says, I work for the government and they got bodies. They don't know that like that's been happening for decades now,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People making similar claims. And it's funny when you take it as a whole. Like we did this whole deep dive into all these UFO crash cases. And I don't know, I came away from the general overview of doing like 14, I think, cases. It's like these cases are all extremely weak and problematic, or the Len Stringfield cases that have zero evidence and he withheld the names of the witnesses and all that. So,
oh yeah.
Could just be, he could have just wrote him up himself. Yeah, I talked to this anonymous person who told me this UFO crashed here and there was bodies and they recovered them. Well, who was he? Well, we can't tell you that. It's weak. It's very weak.
And that's one of the issues, I guess, about trying to create a timeline for UFO history is that it in a way it has to include the case, even if it's weak. But why?
No, I support that.
But how do you know as a viewer if the case is like really weak or not? And that's one of the reasons why I added a scale for notoriety and for credibility, a scale that can always be adjusted. That's for every single case I've put in. So if it that's what allows some cases to be present or not, or to disappear or reappear. Basically, if the case disappears when you zoom out, then it's weaker than the one that's next to it. It has like when you're zoomed out, you should be only seeing the really strong cases, the ones that are exceptional. And then as you zoom in, you're going to see these cases appear, and those are going to be the ones that are like a little less, but they're still there. And I think that having like the
monumental effort that you're making here to cover all of it and include all of it. But like I'm a little ADD. I would love working on something like this because you could just add a little bit to it at a time.
Yeah.
Is that what you've been doing? Just kind of pecking away?
Yep, just pecking away at it. I kind of mapped out what I wanted this to do before I could even like write code or whatever, right? So that back end was was easy, and I had a good idea of what I wanted it to look like. So it was kind of like paint by numbers for a while. But then I discovered things I never thought that I would ever need, like the ability to turn these off or add more categories. The introduction of a globe, to have a globe right here, so when you click on a case, you know exactly where it is. That was like a fantasy of mine.
That's
this
awesome,
is like a heads up display for like a fantasy UFO hunter game or something. And so that's kind of what I just built or whatever. I think it's cool.
And listen, don't take this the wrong way, but didn't you get a lot of shit because we were going to take donations to work on this, and people slagged you for that? I just want to say, like, I will donate to this, because if you actually get this done, you know how much easier my life could be. I could do a whole show, just go through the timeline, like find a good case, talk about it. Go through
that's the goal for it, right? I want people to be able to use it for anything. I want them to be able to like use it as a springboard to new research or finding patterns and little like UFO flaps. And yeah, I was slagged for this. For some reason or another.
How dare you spend thousands of hours developing this thing that would be incredibly useful to all of us, Tupacabra? How dare you take money?
And he taught himself how to code for it. And yeah, people always want to give like me and Tupa crap for like,
well, listen, I have a background.
How does this blue stuff? But it's like, look at what he built here. This is amazing.
I have a background in computer science, and here's what I can tell you: this is a lot of fucking work right here. This is a ton of work right here. I don't know what you coded it in. I don't care. No matter what he coded this in, this is a shit ton of work to make something like this, an app like this work. And especially if you're going to allow like public access, that's another layer of complexity, because it's got to work for multi-user, and then
Thank you.
I support you doing something like this, because selfishly I'm looking at that going, look at that, that's like 100 shows I could do, just do one on each case and go real in depth on each one or whatever.
That's right. And it goes all the way back to whenever you want it to go back to. I think I have the 1561 case, whatever that was.
Oh yeah, those saucers in the sky with the paintings, probably.
Yeah. So like right here, like and there's all these different craft types. So yeah, I like design these little like placeholders for now, but I have this idea of like kind of how I want it to like look a little bit at the end. But yeah, the work was like the back end, and then feeling it out and going with it. And I've been just making improvements. I even pulled off this part. I think is a trip to me. Like get somewhere in here. I have this toggle because I think it's too monochromatic. A lot of people can't like see that. So I just created a thing where you can see a little bit more in high contrast, and it changes like
especially
everything.
I'm visually impaired, so I would turn that switch and appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, there was someone DM me and said, hey, like I can't really see it. I was like, oh, there's got to be another way for this. And so yeah, I took the time to figure it out. But that kind of stuff I think makes the product a lot better.
Even handicap friendly for those of us with visual impairments. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just blown away that people gave you shit for taking money. Like,
well, I never even got any like.
People are giving money to David Wilcock that's telling them to take baths in their own piss to get superpowers, and they're giving him hundreds and thousands of dollars. And you did this, and people were like, "Fuck that guy! He's grifting, he's taking money." Come on, man! It's like thousands and thousands of hours of work right here,
dude. It's a ton, and I even got a little ad thing up here to kind of like help the project kind of like in its fledgling state. But yeah, if anybody wants to like figure out if they want to push, people's shows, movies, yada yada, Twitter Spaces, and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm doing the work. It's a lot of it, but it is super rewarding. And hearing you say that you would you could make shows out of this is kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely, I could, and I do give a portion of the show's money that we take in here to different things like this, and I haven't given you any money yet, but I will. I'll put it on my list because I think I like my show to be a public benefit, and I like to pay it forward. And sometimes we have more support than I need here because I don't live off of this. I just use it for the show's expenses, But I'm like throwing some money to Expanding Frontiers Research and a few other groups because I think, wow, they're doing great things and they deserve a little bit of money for what they do, Certainly this, I know what it takes to build an app like this because I once had to do a historical database for like a military application, and that was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And so I know the kind of work that it takes. That's a lot of work, friends, to put something like this together. And imagine he's got to go find all these details, graphics, all kinds of pictures if they're available for each of these cases. And we're seeing this timeline. And then is there a feature for future cases? Like what happens in 2025? You can add those?
Yeah. So I can always add to it.
Nice.
And that's a beauty of it. So I can just, the way I worked it out is I have a back end that I can enter in all the case details that I can find. And there's like a list of about 50 different items right now. And then once it's filled out, it automatically populates on here and everything's good to go. I have a lot of pending cases and I'm waiting to kind of like sift through and look at details. And then once they're in, then I can just kind of like flood it with as much information as possible. And there's a lot of stuff in here.
Let me give you a hypothetical, because I just thought of something. Like, people ask me about certain things, like, oh, you should do a show on this. And one of the things I got recently was somebody said something like, hey, Stephen, forget about cattle mutilations. Did you know there's human mutilation cases that they think were aliens? Could you like search for human mutilations and find those?
Yes. Right. Not right now. I mean, because I only have a couple. Like there's Colaris and stuff, right?
Yes.
But it will be a feature.
But that's what I mean. So like
yes.
when that's why this is so useful to me, because we like to give the viewers what they want. So when a couple of viewers say, hey, why don't you do a show on this? Theoretically, when you're done with this, I could just go here, put in the information like human mutilations, find the information, compile it with some other research, and boom, I've got a show, and I can make the audience happy and cover what they want.
You have the visual references right there. You can pull out all the pictures that I've been able to collect on it. You can watch, like you could bring new data to your audience, right? Like look at these patterns. Like why is this happening all in one area? Why was this happening in the 80s but not the 90s? And
so you could see the time and the geographical. Exactly. So UFO flaps, you'll be able to see right on the map where each of the sightings was.
I've already kind of seen like there's like other kinds of flaps. Like of course there's flaps when they're in the same area, but look at how many events come up around the same time. Like, did you know about all these events that took place right here? And we're not even done. So there's like a lot of these little moments where there's really dense events. And so one of the things I added too is like these historical things, just to kind of give you frames of reference or context, right? Like when was the moon landing compared to all this stuff? The Mansfield Amendment, the Monroe Institute, Stargate Project, like when was the internet made? I don't know. It gives you a lot of context, much more context than you might expect from like a UFO research thing. But I think it's really important. And one of the most important aspects, I think, of this is going to be the atomic weapons category, because I think going over how many like explosions there were and when they happened and where they happened, and seeing if it has any correlation.
UFO flaps, seeing if there's correlation.
Yeah.
And having this on a timeline is really helpful, because you could see like. That also, I think you'll be able to spot trends, like after Benny and Barney Hill, all of a sudden there's a lot of alien abductions. Isn't that interesting? Or after Whitley Strieber's book Communion comes out, there's you could see the trends and how popular culture influences some of this mythology, I'll call it, right?
Yes. And if like if the case references the book Communion, which a lot of cases do, like I read the book Communion and then I had an experience. Basically what I'm doing is I'm adding a system of tags and keywords. So every case has all these tags and keywords, and that's like the secondary level of the database I'm building. So that way the search feature is a lot more robust and it can like find a lot more stuff, right? Like if there was a pilot involved, or like you said, if there was a human mutilation, if Jacques Vallée was investigating, or if it was part of Project Blue Book, those will all be searchable as well, and those can all eventually become their own categories in a separate way to organize it.
And so the search is going to be that detailed. Like I thought of another example, like what if I'm investigating a UFO case and they say something like, I smelled ozone in the air. You could search for ozone and see if there's other cases where people smelled ozone. That's why I'm saying, wow, how useful this could be so I'm thinking of more and more shit as we're talking here that I could use this for. So
it's wild. I
would help sponsor this, but I get to use it. whenever I
Absolutely.
want. Tupacabra,
Absolutely. Well, I'm
I will
hoping to
always
launch
give
it like
thank you
soon.
and a link. Like, hey, I'm using the UFO timeline for my
Yep.
research. And, yeah.
No, I
Hopefully
would actually love.
everybody
I'll shoot you a early access link so you can really see what it's about. Because one of the reasons why I'm getting people links to check it out early, because I want to launch as soon as possible.
I will check it out and do a whole show on this and encourage people to contribute because I want to.
Oh,
see,
hell yeah!
I want to see this done, Tupa. And I'm sorry that people are assholes. How dare you want some money for your thousands of hours, you dummy? It's so stupid. Like, and listen. And it's not just somebody that has a show. People have a podcast. Like, what if you're having a guest? Like, let's say, for example, right, you're having Travis Walton on, and you don't really know much about the case. You could go right here, go to the case, learn what you need to know to do a proper interview of Travis
That's
Walton.
right.
That's
right.
Whatever. I'm thinking of all these more uses. Yeah.
Well, dude,
I'm
and you could
excited
bring up
about it.
like interesting facts, right? Like you could be like, okay, Travis, let's find him real quick. Okay, cool. He's right here. So you can bring up all these facts where you're like, all right, so we know that Travis Walton's like abduction or whatever happened in like 70 back here. And like what else happened around then? And like what kind of craft was like a saucer? Okay, so you could, well, what other things were happening around with saucers around that time? And where were they? So now you can, like, it's kind of a way to become like a very quick expert on a topic that would otherwise be tucked away behind books and books and books, right? Like, and then like all this other stuff, like that you like corners of the internet that you don't necessarily want to go in or you don't know about, and they're all sketchy 1998 websites. So like, this is one that's
GeoCities,
yes, dude, like Netscape and stuff. It's like, no, this isn't going to work. So this is hopefully something that's going to bring the topic into like a mainstream tool that works for everyone. So and like you'll notice there's not a lot of like UFO paraphernalia on the site. There's no like big UFO or alien peeking around the corner.
It looks more like a serious research tool that's nobody would be ashamed to use.
Yes, like if someone walked in on you using it, you don't have to be like, oh, so it's you. You don't have to close your window. You can. They'll be like, what is this? You're like, it's UFOs. They're like, okay, cool.
I really support this, and this is one of those I wish I would have thought of it things, But
dude,
I'm glad that you thought of it, and I know you've been working on this. How long have you been working on this? That's the other thing that pisses me off when somebody says you shouldn't get any money. You've been working on this for years, right?
Yeah, years. So like the red Panda Koala years ago was like, there's no map for like UFOs, like events and stuff. Like there's not a map for that stuff. And like Panda was crushing it on videos, and I was like, well, that I can maybe try something like that. I could try to make a map of this stuff. And I thought it was going to be a very interesting kind of like a poster or something, right? Where it's like all these connective lines and whatnot. So I started working on that. And then when I showed it, after I compiled a bunch of information, I showed it online, and everyone like really enjoyed it. They really, it was my most liked post, up until like something else happened, but it was like my most liked post for a year. And I was like, okay, I really need to make this. I need to make it into an app, like a website or an app, but I don't know how to code. So I did a lot of research into how I would make it work and how I would have to get it done. And I was given quotes for like 75,000, 125,000 paying software developers like full time for 3 months to make something like this. And I just don't have any of those resources. So I was like, okay, I'll wait. And I decided not to launch any kind of like, fundraisers or anything.
Get a seed done yourself before you start asking for things. But
exactly.
Necessity really is the mother of invention. It's the same thing with other. It's the same thing. If you really want something, you find a way to do it. Originally I wasn't going to build a cabin. I was going to buy one, and then I started looking around, and the prices were so high. I'm like, I will never have that money. So if I want to do this, I got to figure this shit out. You did the same thing with this. It's awesome to see powerful, creative people. They go, I'm going to find a way to do it. Like whatever it takes, I'll find a way to do it. And I'm impressed. You didn't even know how to code before this?
No, I didn't know how to code. So
nothing at all.
Nothing. I couldn't do shit. And when I looked at it, I just felt like repulsed by it. I've never had a desire to learn, or it was intimidating, super intimidating. But I was watching this a couple social media guys on Twitter or YouTube who were using AI to help them code. And so I was like, well, maybe AI can help me learn what coding even is, and then I can kind of be like trial by fire, right? I'll figure it out by trying to wrap it around this demand. I have an idea, I have a vision, and I was like trying to take it piece by piece. And I had already, for 2 years I had this idea, but the only thing I could do was work on the database. Because that's, I was being told this the whole time from anyone I talked to.
Compiling the information
Yes,
before you even get to the
yes.
coding part.
Exactly.
Well, everybody learns their own way. I actually learned coding by getting other people's programs and like modifying them, just hacking into their shit that they've already done. And I wanted to learn game programming and stuff, so I would get those open source games and I would look at the code and try to figure it out and get some books or whatever. Eventually I got good at it, but I'm better at programming microcontrollers, which is its own crazy.
That's cool. That's cool as hell.
Well, microcontrollers are what powers drones and robots, and that's my primary interest. So,
well, that'll pay off.
No, it hasn't.
Robots are going to be
yet.
everywhere.
Is that like
it
those
hasn't very
Arduino
much yet.
things?
Yeah. I'm really big in Arduinos. I love, one of the things I really love is taking like an old robot from the 80s and ripping its guts out and jamming it full of a laptop and 10 Arduinos to make it really crazy.
Hell yeah.
I have a bunch of stuff here. Yeah.
That's actually badass. Bringing like retro stuff back to the forefront, but like overpowered retro toys is sick.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, this project I would heavily support, and I would encourage other people to support it because I think a lot of people can benefit. And isn't that interesting? You wanted this for yourself, and let's be clear, you selfishly you thought this is something I could use for one reason or another. And isn't it great though that you build it and then you don't know, like thousands of people may benefit from this. Books, authors, researchers, show hosts, podcast hosts. Like I said, even somebody interviewing somebody that doesn't know the subject well or doesn't know the person they're interviewing well or their story could go there and figure it out,
Yeah, thank you. And I hope that it becomes a utility for people. It was a huge help for me. Even having the mock-up, I've had it open every day since I've been, doing spaces and whatnot. And I always will add little notes to it or whatever, but it was never this defined. But the mock-up alone would help me in conversations. I'd be able to place events in context. Like, oh, someone talks about, Philip Corso or whatever. Without something like this, I would not know these events and these names. And yeah, it's a real good resource for me. So I hope other people find it.
Like I said, I think knowing the history is so important to not getting sucked in, because like I said, like people hear there's there was a UFO crash, but they don't know that there's been tons of them and largely no evidence or proof. And I'm a big student of history, and I'm interested in just the mythology and how it evolves. So I would love something like this.
And you might not notice this, but in this section, you got Hal Puthoff, Valet, Sarfati, and Tesla. Like, you can put in anything we want to put in, right? Like, and then make it, compare their life history, their life's work to these events in UFO history, and see what's going on.
I think that's a great idea.
Revealing. Yeah.
And Red, are you working on some new videos? And what do you got coming?
Yeah, so I'm working on a 3-part. It might be 4-part Lue Elizondo one that I'm trying to get out.
Oh,
the last
shit.
part, I'm gonna really try and just lay out the case for this like hate group stuff, which I already know. Apparently, word on the street is he's trying to sue me and Tupa, so I got to be like extra careful with that. And then I have this other one that
Can I give you some advice? It's called media insurance, and this is something that I have had to learn the hard way. With David Wilcox threatening to sue me for slander and defamation, which is ridiculous. But anyway, you can get media insurance. Find an insurance carrier, tell them that you're making videos on YouTube or you're a podcaster or whatever, and you want media insurance, and that it's a lot less expensive than I thought it was. And what happens is, should somebody actually sue you, they have to go through the insurance company and an army of lawyers. It's very good protection to have in place. And the second thing that I would suggest is, whether you think you need one or not, go register an LLC and then clearly mark everything you make produced by that LLC. I do that. And if you were to be sued, that means they could only sue your company and they cannot get to your personal assets or endanger them. You know, so in other words,
great advice.
if you own a home, if you own a car, whatever you own, money in the bank, they can't get to any of it. All they can get to is the company's assets. And I make it a point that my company that produces this show at one time or another only has a few $100s in the account. So good luck trying to, you know, get a large judgment against me. But these things, those threats are just, they're trying to chill free speech. They're trying to stomp all over your right to free speech and scare other people from speaking up, you know?
Exactly. It's horrible. And it needs to be called out. And I think enough people have seen it, but I don't think, you know, people hear about me and Tuba talk about it here and there in spaces, right? But when you see it all, and like, I think we've all three of us on the stage have actually been around comparatively to a lot of the community for a while, right? So when you see these patterns happen over and over again, and it's like what you say, like people don't know history, right? That's why I do history, UFO stuff too, right? Because people just don't know. But yeah, I'm Lou's definitely gonna hate that one. But I do have another one, a Spielberg one that I probably will do before the final Lou one. That's already almost done, and it's all about like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and stuff. So that'll be cool.
Oh, that's one of the greatest movies ever, right?
Oh yeah,
it actually is.
And it's got the Bob Lazar hand scanner in it too, so there's that.
Right, I know. That's hilarious.
Well, listen,
but yeah,
I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this, and I will continue to be in your spaces. And I told you, a lot of the times when I listen to your spaces, I'm at the cabin and the internet is run by a potato there, so I'm afraid I can't talk. It like stutters while I'm trying to listen, and I curse at it, and sometimes that helps. But when I'm home, if you want me, I'll be happy to contribute to your spaces, because I think that's that's another great resource, because there's all these nuggets of information. And, you know, I was going to try to do a show without you two, but then I was like, that's so selfish. They got all this information with these spaces. I'll just play the clips and take credit. Like I'm some crack.
I'm glad we're building the bridge too, right? Because I feel like people have definitely wanted us to not be friends, right? Or like get to know each other.
Yeah. You're the devil. You two are both the devil, and I'm not supposed to talk to either of you people. You're detrimental to the whole disclosure movement. You're the devil, and you know, I love that. Like, and I love these people that say like, oh, that person is trying to stop disclosure. Like,
oh, that's my favorite.
You're trying to get to the truth with lies, and I'm exposing the lies. How am I screwing up disclosure? You mean your fake disclosure? That's not.
We're all trying to get like we're all trying to prevent this whole thing from crumbling, which I think at this point Lou's too tied to everything that I think it, because somebody put it really good in a space the other day. They were like, what happens when like Gotti Schwartz and all these Sagaran Jetty, when they all have their Green Street flip, which everyone kind of does if they look into Lue and his claims, if all these guys that are kind of pushing it out there in the media have that flip at the same time, and what if all the congressmen and all the congressmen that have been pushing this in Congress all realize
they
at the
go,
same time
oh, these were frauds and grifters pushing this shit.
It's going to kill the subject for like 30, 40 years, I feel like, before more congressmen will want to touch it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I thought about. Like, these people think this fake disclosure effort will work, but you're doing a huge amount more damage, because when people say, oh, all that stuff's fake, it's because a lot of it is. And when it becomes exposed, that contributes to the idea, oh, it's all fake. And it makes the subject a mockery, you know? Exactly, I mean, think about what we have. That's why it's such a clown show. Think about this. We have a fake Pentagon UFO program director getting on national television, and nobody stops and says, wait a minute, you lied to the New York Times, you never ran a real program. We have people ripping apart dead bodies and claiming and gluing them back together and claiming that they have alien mummies. And, you know, it's just a big clown show. It's worthy of mockery sometimes.
It is. It should be mocked all the time. Like, only through like ridicule can it sharpen itself, and can we kind of weed out a lot of this like loose stuff. And like that's one of the weird elements of this is like there's so much people just making exceptions for their own critical thinking to like not work.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
dude,
I call that mental gymnastics. Like
exactly.
My favorite is the Bob Lazar fans. They're like, he still could have worked there. I'm like, no, he couldn't have, you dumbass. And here's why. You know, his wife was a convicted murderer. It was the height of the Cold War. She had ties to the Hells Angels. You're not getting in a secret project, you assholes. You know, Red says I'm too harsh sometimes, but that's only because I've been here too long and my patience is at about 0 with some of these people. And I've done my homework. I've done my homework, so I don't I'm not going to argue with your feelings. You know,
Yeah,
I
we can't blame you. Cannot blame you.
This looks good, and I like the coming soon. I want to see that taken off and fully operational tomorrow.
This time tomorrow.
We'll give you 2 weeks. I got to start prep. I got to start doing a lot more shows. So we'll give you 2 weeks.
Thank you. So kind.
Get it together, Tupra.
So if you guys want to see this, go to theufotimeline.com. Super simple. Theufotimeline.com.
I'll put it in the description of the video and podcast as well.
Thank you, man. And there you could get early access, donate, or check out the About Us page and kind of see what the project's about. But yeah, thank you for letting me show this off here, man. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm very interested in it. So that was a selfish endeavor. But listen, cool. I'm glad we both cleared the air too. Let's all agree that nobody should tell us who we should speak to or who is a detriment to this subculture. Let's get to know people and form our own opinions, because I think that's the healthy way to do it.
Totally agree, 100%.
And like I said, I like creative weirdos, so you two creative weirdos are welcome here.
Nice.
Same.
Yeah, I fit that bill, I think.
And we're all low-key bonded by our interactions with
our trauma experience, our combined trauma experience of dealing with the Lue Crew cult. Yes.
It's a hell of a thing. It's like a hornet's nest we kicked over. This shit's crazy.
I think it's unraveling, though. Yeah, okay.
I gotta get off here, but
I'm gonna throw you guys out and do a quick wrap up. I didn't read the super chats. We read every single super chat, but I don't like interrupting the conversation. It feels rude for me to do the super chat dance in the middle of the talk. You know.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I'm going to throw you guys out here and read the super chats. You guys have a good night. And stay in touch. All right.
Take care, man.
Thank you, Red, and thank you, Tupacabra. All right, friends. What a fun talk. See, I got to tell you, this week we had what I would consider a nice week of shows, even though we've only done 2 and we should have done 3, but things happen. And what I mean is these 2 shows that we did this week were fun and they were effortless, and I feel like we accomplished something. So, like I said, we read every single super chat, and wow, you guys were so generous tonight. I apologize. But like I said, it feels rude to the guests to interrupt and go, let me read the super chats. Amy WC with a kind and generous $5 says, have to go and we'll listen tomorrow. Well, we missed you, Amy WC, but thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support and helping us to praise the cat. Then we've got Comply Zer with a kind and generous £2.34 who says sock puppets and sock puppets, the stiffest grifts. Yes, thank you, longtime show supporter Comply Zer. We've got Rotary Motion, longtime show supporter who says 5,000 boost and a kind and generous £2. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us, Rotary Motion. And we want to thank Rick Roberts for kind of generous $5 super chat. Says, wow, I'm getting flashback to Corey Good and the blue chicken cult that was attacking people. Is this going to be a common thing every 5 years? Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the Lue Crew cult and what I called the blue chicken cult. And I've been through both, and both of them use the same tactics. You got to shut down anybody who is showing that their leader is essentially full of shit. You got to shut them down. Dox them, threaten their families. Both the UFO hate group that is currently doing this stuff and Corey Good's doxing group, they use the same exact tactics. And I'm glad I'm not the only person realizing that. Thanks, Rick Roberts. All right. And we want to thank Rotary Motion for another kind and generous £2. Says, don't pander to their contempt. Good advice. Thank you. All right, we've got Adam Hatfield. What are your thoughts on John Greenwald's analysis of his recent FOIA results, revealing a memo authored by Elizondo, allegedly for Neil Tipton? Even more interesting, in my opinion. A lot to unpack here. Well, I think it's very telling that Neil Tipton didn't even know what he was talking about. Remember, in his reply, he said something like, eventually, you'll need to let me know what this is all about. And also, I have it on pretty good authority that Neil Tipton never followed up or did anything with this so-called program. So what that means is that the program was fake, just like the Pentagon says it was. It wasn't a real program. Neil Tipton didn't go continue the ATIP effort because the ATIP effort was Lue Elizondo's personal hobby and nothing more, in my opinion. But thank you, Adam, for your kindness, generosity, and support. We certainly appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. All right, and then we've got Compli Zert, who's been a member for 24 months. Great supporter, Compli Zert, longtime show supporter. He came with the set. He's been here since the very beginning. Thank you, Compli Zert, for being a member for 24 months. Stephen Bruddy, can you please show the video of Bledsoe's son faking that fake UFO video clip using Lego? I will dig it out for you when I get a chance. I do not have it handy, and it was a Twitter post, I believe. So I'm going to have to try to dig through and find that. But thank you, Compli Zert. All right. And we've got Spooky, kind and generous, $9, £1.99. Why didn't they build the spaceship? Well, because the alien technology that they were going to use doesn't exist. And because Hal Puthoff convinced them that they could build this spaceship, I think. And Hal Puthoff is a complete and total wackadoo, which would explain why nothing TTSA claimed worked out, because he was directly involved and he's a complete and total wackadoo. Remember, he got superpowers from Scientology as well, but thank you, Spooky. Rick Roberts with a kind of generous $5 super chat. It's interesting. Lou made a YouTube channel as he said he doesn't want to do interviews. He told Kurt he wanted to change his name and disappear. Well, maybe he'll change his name and disappear when the UFO dollars dry up, Rick Roberts. But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and helping us to... All right, and we've got Compli Zert with a kind and generous $2. Stephen, do you know what happened to CalCorp's UFO app? No, I don't think he ever finished it. And that was quite some time ago. You'd have to message him yourself to find out. I'm not really sure what happened with that. But thank you for your kindness. All right, just a couple more here. We want to thank Local 556. Oh, yeah, long time no talk, Local 556. Stephen, long time no talk, brother. Send half of this towards Tupa because his site was a brilliant idea. Looking forward to its further development. Camby and Tupa and RPK, all my boys in one podcast. Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we did it. And thank you. And I will definitely, I'm going to send him more than $5, but I'll take your $5 to throw in on what I'm going to try to send him 50. We'll see what I can scrape together for the month. Thank you, Local 556. Good to see you. All right. We've got Lord Ludicrous. If anybody else is feeling generous, get those super chats in. Great show. Really enjoyed the conversation. The conversation did seem extremely smooth. Great work and show as always. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. And thank you for helping us to praise the cash. Lord Ludicrous, longtime show supporter. He has been here since the beginning as well. Always good to see you, Lord Ludicrous. Thanks for your support. Right, and the final one for the evening, unless somebody else is feeling generous, Compli Zert with a kind of generous £2.22 says Hal Grifto, Dr. Eric Beavis, and Ross Butthart. Yeah, and we want to take a moment to thank not just Compli Zert, we want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors, you YouTube channel members, you Patreon supporters, you PayPal pledgers, Twitch subscribers, people buying me a coffee, PayPal pledgers. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, friends. I just want to thank initials RB What happened? 1 second here. Okay, we want to thank. Let me see. Why is I'm having trouble with PayPal here? We want to thank Village Floral House for a kind and generous $5 PayPal pledge. Thank you for your kindness, generosity.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
And, we want to thank Rebecca for a kind and generous PayPal pledge. For those unaware, it's a good idea to add a note when you send a PayPal pledge. Instructions for how to help is in the description of this video. And Rebecca says, great conversation with Grindr. I'm really looking forward to the one tonight with the guys from X too. Thanks, Stephen. Best show on YouTube. And that's from Nemesis Bex. Thank you, Nemesis Bex, for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. Thank you, Nemesis Bex.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
All right, we're going to just check in. We'll just check in real quickly with the Buy Me a Coffee, but I think we're up to date on that. I think my phone like buzzes when oh no, Mike Larry. Oh no, that's an older one. But we thank Mike Larry, who's the MVP of Buying Me a Coffee. And we thank Railroad Bum, who says, Stephen, I have binged almost every video and live stream you have done using the Truth Seekers format. Above all, your work is greatly informative, which I do appreciate. It is also passionate and funny and very human. I hope you're inspired to continue your endeavors for many years to come. I wish you and your family the best. God bless. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and all of you for helping us to praise the cash. Just a reminder for those unaware, we do have a merchandise store as well where you could buy a shirt or some swag, and that supports the show. Otherwise, we're a viewer-supported show, and it's only through the kindness, generosity, and support of viewers like you that we're able to do this. So I'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat before we bounce on out of here. Luis Elizondo's next book, I know I said imminent last time, but I meant within the next 10 years, possibly. His next book is going to be titled Never Coming. Disclosure, never coming. All this chasing the carrot is ridiculous. But thank you, Scallywag, for your comment. Anybody else have any comments or questions for me? Please put them in all capital letters. Soil Alpin says, honest show. That's what I like. Yes, it's a very rare thing right now. Manny brought the fire tonight. Sure did. Trolly troll. I don't know what that means. I come from Planet Claire. Planet Claire has pink air and the trees are red. No one dies there. No one has a head. Well, that's really kind of weird, but okay. Yes, King of Hugo Mundo says Trolly troll is on a 1986 Apple computer. Don't laugh. You can still do that. I am aware, at least, I once put my Tandy color computer from 1982 on the internet. It's text only and 40-column screen, but you could do it. Aliens or Sus says Wilcock wants AI in his Atari 7800. He needs someone to talk to other than the Archangel Michael. Yes, I have. Complicity asks, Stephen, have you checked out the latest Skeptic magazine Shermer video on Elizondo yet? Yes, I did. I thought that his analysis was a little weak, though. He's not really up on all the minutia. So for somebody like me that's a little more informed than him, it was a little weak. But for general people, he had some very good arguments. And we thank Egyptian Princess. Always nice to see Egyptian Princess. And is that a Yorkie? Do you know I have a Yorkie in your? Is that a Yorkie in your? It looks like a Yorkie. Yeah, looks like a Yorkie. Little Chewbacca. We have a little Chewbacca named Baxter here. He's a rescue. He was a homeless dog on the street, and he became our best friend. It's funny how that happens. But thank you, Egyptian Princess. All right. Yeah. Admiral Rascals, you worried about Lou suing you doing some goofy? Not really. And, I'm in the middle of it, but we're going to have media insurance here. So Anybody that's stupid enough to try that, good luck fighting an insurance company and their army of lawyers, because I'll be covered for that. Scallywag 00 says Shermer or Dawkins should interview Elizondo. That would be pure gold. Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Michael Shermer invited Lue Elizondo to come on his show and do an interview. And Lue Elizondo responded by blocking him. And as I have been made aware, they had no other communication other than Shermer saying, I would like you to come on my show for an interview. And then Lue Elizondo blocked him. So how is this guy going to break down the walls of disclosure when he's afraid of Michael Shermer? And he's apparently afraid of Arston Tony. He's such a pussy, he can't take real questions from the audience. Do you know why? Because he's a liar. And just to be clear, I've said this many, many times, and I mean it. The only people who fear questions are people with something to hide. Egyptian princess. Wow. Yes, he just turned 19. Duke. He looks like my kind of guy. Egyptian princess, I never liked little dogs. But then my wife, I always had big dogs. The last actual dog that I had was a big Rottweiler. But my wife always has these little rat dogs. She loves them. And you know what, Egyptian princess? The smaller it is and the uglier it is, the more my wife loves it. So my wife's dogs have increasingly got, since I met her, smaller and uglier. That one of it's like they're so ugly, they're cute, I guess. And honestly, I really liked that dog at first, but he grew on me. All her dogs do. The one she had before this one was called Beast, and that dog was really funny. But this one showed up on her mother's doorstep, and we could never find the owner. He's very, very good with the children. He's super protective. He's a good watchdog. He's a little annoying though. He's always got to be with you. He'll go out of his way to be on your lap and stuff. And sometimes you're just like, get off me, dog. But he does that thing like hit you with his head, like pet me, bitch. He grew on me, and I grew to really. He's awesome with the kids too. I think they're great dogs. I never had a Yorkie before, but this one just showed up. Good luck with your dog. Wow, 19. It's good to know that they can live that long. Yeah, I don't know. Complizaire asking, Stephen, do you know what's up with Jeff from Strange Recon? Me misses him. Yeah, I know he's been gone for a while. I think he just got, like a lot of people, you get burned out, you get fed up, you're not making any money being skeptical, and you see all these assholes making bank that are lying to people and promoting the alien stuff with no evidence. And I think he just got, burnt out, and he took his marbles and went home. I hope he comes back, and I hope he's doing well wherever he is. Shout out to Jeff from Strange Recon. Yeah, Pathfinder says, little guy sounds like an awesome dog. He's okay. He gets on my nerves, though, because sometimes I leave food on this little thing in front of the couch. I forget what you even call it. I don't know. We have this little leather thing that you could put like a plate of food or, whatever, remote. I guess it's an ottoman. Anyway, if I leave food on the ottoman, he jumps up there and he gets it, and he pisses me off. Pathfinder says, I love animals and birds. I have a pet wild crow. Well, that's interesting. Do you know they could talk? Here today, gone tomorrow. That's life. Well, that's depressing. Thanks. We'll end the show on a depression note. Thank you. Thank you, Archaic Revival. Miss Tari is here. It says, our Yorkie used to like scrambled eggs. This dog loves people food. He'll go out of his way. That's another thing he does. If we leave the chairs in the kitchen out, he jumps up on the chair, and then he jumps up on the table and eats people's food. Yorkies are cool. Yeah, mine looks like a little Chewbacca. He's really, really weird. Saber, prove it wasn't Lou. Ball is in your court. Did I miss something? What did I miss? I'm trying to find a Saber comment then. What did he say? Oh, here we go. How do you know which faceless bureaucrat the DMs were from? Someone remade the account after Lue shut down the original. We know by the date, because the date of that DM is before Lue shut the account down. But thanks for trying to defend Lue, right? Maybe you should. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to slag you. You want to defend a guy that's been caught lying over and over and over again. Have you seen the faceless bureaucrat tweets? Maybe we'll do a show and we'll go over him again. And you can see that this man is no hero. He's a zero. Any man that wouldn't stand up and say, I do not condone any followers of mine threatening people's wives and children or doxing people, in my opinion, is a piece of shit. No, but that's just my opinion. And, you know, I get it. People say I'm biased because this this doxing harassment crew came after me. And what was my sin? Oh, that's right. I hosted a filmmaker who made a film about Lue Elizondo that was not flattering, and I talked to the filmmaker. That's what I did wrong, right? Lue Elizondo is a fake Pentagon UFO program director. In other words, he's a complete and total fraud. He isn't who he claimed to be originally. And, you know, we could go over the original claims again, but we did that earlier in the show. So I feel sufficient that, you know, we did what we were doing, you know. We've done our due diligence. You know, people think that I'm just being, Saber says, I think Lue was behind some of the abuse, but Red Tupa also get a ton of research about him wrong, like he claiming he was OTO. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that didn't Peter Levenda or somebody came and said, I'm OTO and Lue is not. So sometimes you get something wrong. You know, I don't think you're standing by that or doubling down on it if it's wrong. And in my experience, you know, there's many, well, some people won't, though. There's some people that won't admit that they were wrong. I make it a point. If we get a point like that wrong, like I said, I've had several people tell me that Richard Dolan's wife is a high-ranking Scientologist. Even one that reported she was in Clearwater to me, taking some courses or something. And I don't know if that's completely true, but I believe it is because several people told me that that's true. But I've always offered that Richard Dolan or his wife are free to correct me. And if that is incorrect information, I will report that here and I will apologize, you know. It's too late to be skeptical about Lue. We are far past identifying that he uses sock puppets and which ones. That's a fair point. Yeah. Pathfinder says, I've got videos of her on my other channel. I'm not sure who we're talking about here. Levenda has been an out book writing occultist for decades. There was no revelation there. Well, yeah, but a lot of people don't know. Besides Peter Levenda writing those books with or for Tom DeLonge, people are accusing him of ghostwriting other stuff. And he's also the guy behind the Necronomicon scam. So he scammed the public in the 1980s with a fake Necronomicon book, which reportedly sold, I think, millions of copies. And it was a completely and total fabrication. It wasn't the real Necronomicon like they marketed it. The real Necronomicon doesn't exist. The Necronomicon was a work of fiction invented by H.P. Lovecraft. Saber says, it's never too late to be skeptical about any claim. You just undercut the case, Area 503, when you say crap like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame anybody for believing somebody and then being late to realize that they were lying to you and start being skeptical. But Cambionism ufologist exposing the grifters. Thanks, Al Warrior, and thanks for being a member. Yeah, well, we thank all of you for joining us. I think tonight was good because, like Tupa and Panda said, like many people try to put them against me and me against them, and like I don't have any problem with those guys. Now, certainly, I'm sure there's things that I disagree with those guys on. I'm sure there's things that they may have done that I don't approve of or disagree with. But to me, we found some common ground. We cleared the air. And I got to learn a lot about what's going on with this Lue situation. And more importantly, I got to take all of you guys with me. And I'm glad for that. Always glad for that. So I'm not sure when the next show will be. I'll be going to the cabin tomorrow night. For those unaware, I'm actually building a new cabin. And I will be busy. If you're a member, you can check out the update from the hideaway. I got a little plot of land in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around but woods and forest for miles in every direction. I love it. And I built a little tiny cabin there. Looks like it's going to be about 14 by 12, I think. I have to decide that this weekend. I'm in a catch-22 because I want to make it as big as I can, but I got to have it done by winter. So I know, the logical part of me knows, the smaller I make it, the more likely I will finish it. But then I'm like, well, geez, it might be too small, and then I'm going to be adding on, or, so I've got a lot of decisions to make there. But I'm hopeful, and I'm thankful for the time to do it. My wife will be watching the kids and let me just go build a cabin. I feel like a kid in the woods again. Remember, did you ever build a fort in the woods when you were a kid? I love that shit. So I'm having a great time over there trying to build this cabin. We'll see how it works out. Thank you, Al Warrior, for kind and generous $2 super chat. Al Warrior with the bacon again. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And Al Warrior, if I miss a super chat like that, again, put it in all caps. You missed my super chat. I'm glad I got it before we rolled out. Thanks, Al Warrior. Thanks for being a YouTube channel member, and thanks for being a longtime show supporter. Al Warrior, he came with the curtains too. He's been here forever.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
All right, friends, we had a great night tonight. We appreciate all of the support, and I'm glad that tonight happened. People emailed. Several people were cautious. Let's just say a few people were cautious about my choice to host these two. I think it went very well, and I'd rather build bridges than tear them down. I'd rather make a friend, or at least a good acquaintance that I'm on good terms with, rather than an enemy. Quite honestly, and I fully admit that this is of my own making, but we get enough hate here. So wouldn't it be better to have some support instead of the hate for a change? And also form your own opinions of people before demonizing them for things they may or may have said, or may not have done, or whatever, Well, so for now, that's all I got for you. I will be posting a Patreon or YouTube channel member video probably tomorrow. And I'm sorry I'm a little bit behind in that, but I've been busy with the summer and trying to catch up. This week, I was supposed to put my foot on the gas and do a lot more shows, but then life got in the way. A guest had a power failure. There's some stuff going on here at my home that I needed to attend to. Next week, we'll have more shows. I promise. You have my word on that. All right. So, that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.